I'm sorry for being a little late on the live stream tonight, but we have some pretty exciting stuff. We got to see our Trey Lance guy go out there. You know I love my guy Trey Lance. Crush with, yes, a single-ear touchdown, but it's the preseason. What are you expecting? Now, we did get to see our guy Trey Lance crush, but at the same time, we had a couple injuries. You got Zach Wilson down. You have Drake London down. We will be giving updates. We'll be seeing where they're going in real money fantasy football drafts now. And more importantly, where you have these other guys going like Elijah Moore, Breece Hall, and Garrett Wilson with the uncertainty of the Zach Wilson injury. So let's go ahead. Let's dive into this draft. Now, this first draft that we're going to do is not going to be a high-stakes draft. This first draft is just going to be a $3 warm-up draft with members of the flock. This is a private draft just for people who watch this live stream. And then after we get done with this, where we're picking at 10, then we are going to head over to Underdog and we are going to hop into the $250 buy-in draft on Underdog. So it should be pretty exciting. If you have not done so already, please go down there, drop a like in this live stream, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell next to the subscribe button if you want to know when we're live so you can come out and you can draft with us. But you have Jonathan Taylor off the board at 1. That's standard. I'm assuming we get CMC, then Jefferson, Kupp, Chase. Yes, Christian McCaffrey goes at 2. Let's see if we have anybody mix it up. Of course, we are drafting with a ton of smart people right now. I mean, you're looking at a WC99. I feel like we haven't drafted with them in a long time. We have Gliz at pick 5. We have a ton of drafts with them. Obviously, we have a ton of drafts with Dylan at 6. Yeah. Deezinators. I've been drafting with Deezinators for years now. Let's see what we can do at 10. At 10, I'm assuming that we're going to be walking away with like a Dalvin Cook. If we don't get a Dalvin, maybe, we are going to go ahead and we are going to look for Derek Carr. But that's just because we have to start 3 wide receivers in this league. Now, we have someone out in the chat right now, and Judah says, draft Cortland Sutton in the first for the culture. Yeah, I mean, talk about building locker room chemistry, going out there and drafting someone like... Oh, dear God. Cortland Sutton in the first round. But it looks like exactly what we thought was going to happen does. We get Dalvin Cook here at pick 10. Interesting to see that Deezinators decides to push up Devontae Adams to pick 8 to be taken ahead of guys like Austin Eckler and Dalvin Cook. Personally, I don't agree with it. I understand why they're doing it because you have to start 3 wide receivers on Underdog. Obviously, wide receivers later on in these drafts are going to get pushed up and you're going to be able to find solid running back value later on. But still, looking at the upside of a Devontae Adams in this Las Vegas Raiders offense, I don't necessarily think that it's going to be similar to what you have with some of these other running backs. So let's see if we get Joe Mixon. So if you look at my rankings, I'm actually going to have Joe Mixon ranked ahead of Dalvin Cook. But just based on this ADP, a lot of times you can take Dalvin Cook in the first and still end up getting Joe Mixon in the second here. In this draft, it doesn't happen. In this draft, we get sniped on Joe Mixon 1 pick before, but it is what it is. I think that's the correct play to go for. And it looks like we are just going to go ahead and go back-to-back running back here with this start with the combination of Dalvin Cook and Saquon Barkley. Earlier this offseason, you actually had Barkley as a running back that was going in the 3rd round on Underdog. But if you do not know, if you've been living under a rock and you have not heard me say this a million times by now, we are drafting on Underdog Fantasy. If you want to get in some real money fantasy football drafts with us this offseason, it's going to be super simple. We do this every single night for 3-4 hours. All you got to do is go to the link in the description, go to the link in the live chat, go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code FLOCK when you sign up, and you will get our 2022 fantasy football rankings, our 2022 fantasy football draft guide with literally just a $10 deposit on Underdog Fantasy. You are going to get that draft guide, which is like 300 pages, and you will get a dollar for dollar deposit match up to $100. So you're essentially getting paid to play fantasy football. But let me send out this poll, and then I'll be able to catch up on the live chat. I apologize, guys. Trying to set up this live stream here. And we have Tyreek Hill going 22, Mike Evans 20, Alvin Kamara 21. So Kamara is going to be that consistent second round selection. And now that it looks like you do have some positive news with his legal situation, and he's less likely to miss games this upcoming season. Aaron Jones at 18 going to the Derrick Henry team. That's going to be a very common pick. I really think the one player that we need to be on the lookout for to see what exactly is happening is going to be Mike Evans at 20. Because obviously Mike Evans has fallen a decent amount compared to where he was going before Julio Jones signed. But given the uncertainty that you have in Tampa, I am just a little bit worried about this Mike Evans situation. I mean, Tom Brady's on with it. I don't know what's going on, okay? It is unclear at this moment. And because of the uncertainty with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, if I'm going to be breaking ties in favor of a player, I'm probably going to be going with someone who's not a Buccaneer at this moment. Okay. But I see a lot of people in the chat saying that Deshaun Watson looked bad. Yeah, guys. Deshaun Watson looked bad. But please, what I want y'all to do right now is do not overreact. Write it down on a piece of paper. Set a reminder on your phone or something. Do not overreact to what you see in the preseason. The preseason definitely matters. I mean, 100% matters for teams in determining their overall depth chart, in teams determining which players are actually going to make the team, and what the running back 2 is going to look like with the workload that they have. Is the running back 2 in Kansas City going to be Ronald Jones, or is it going to be a 7th-round rookie out of Rutgers? Those are the things that we need to be monitoring during the preseason. Do we need to be looking at Travis Etienne making a fancy play and trending on Twitter and going, okay, yeah, Travis Etienne now needs to go higher in fantasy football drafts? No. And the same thing, if you see a quarterback like Deshaun Watson, who historically is the top 5 quarterback in fantasy every time he plays, if he looks bad through 7 of pass attempts, it's not like, okay, yeah, no, now Deshaun Watson's a bad quarterback. The Cleveland Browns burned those 3 first-round picks. Don't overreact. Do not overreact. Now, Thomas says, I don't know if Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore fall more than a few picks without Zach Wilson. Yeah, JN texted me this. Thomas, let me know what you think. But he texted me asking what my opinion would be on those New York Jets players if the team goes ahead and trades for Jimmy Garoppolo. And my assessment of the situation is I would probably be more excited for Elijah Moore, and I would be more excited for Garrett Wilson if the team made a play and ended up getting someone like Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, with Zach Wilson, we've stood by it the entire offseason. I don't think he's a great NFL quarterback. I think that he is going to be someone that, on the whole, we probably should be betting against if we're looking historically with his adjusted yards per pass attempt, his rookie season, and who it compares to. Really looks like he's going to be that Sam Darnold, Blake Bortles, Mitchell Trubisky level player. And he didn't look great before the injury either. So as it stands, like, let me go and pull up Twitter one more time. It sounds like we don't have clarity on the Zach Wilson injury and exactly how long he's going to miss. But let me search one more time just in case. Some random fans speculating that he tore his ACL, but of course, just random fans speculating. We don't know. But if Jimmy Garoppolo is all of a sudden a quarterback for the New York Jets, I am more excited about Elijah Moore, and I am more excited about Garrett Wilson. Now, if it's going to be Mike White, if it's going to be one of the backup quarterbacks currently sitting in New York, no, even if I'm not a Zach Wilson fan, still, those guys are going to be a clear downgrade in that there's not too much upside beyond Zach Wilson in this quarterback room as it stands. Because even if I wanted to say, okay, Zach Wilson's probably a bad quarterback, we can admit he has an upside. We can admit that he could improve going into year 2. But Saram coming out says, hey, Mason, check out Trey Lance's touchdown throw. Looking decent. Yeah. You know, I was already watching Trey Lance. That's why this live stream actually took a little bit of time to get live, because I was sitting here watching Trey Lance. And once Trey Lance wasn't going to play anymore, that's exactly when we went live. But very excited to see our guy Lance out there. Hartnell says, so Zach Wilson tore his ACL. I have him in 14% sure. I don't think Zach Wilson tore his ACL. I mean, it's entirely possible, but nothing's confirmed at this moment. Colin says, as it stands, Joe Flacco is the Jets starter if Zach Wilson misses time. So like I said, that would negatively impact 100%. Even though I don't like Zach Wilson, we have to admit that would negatively impact all wide receivers for the New York Jets. But if they could make that play for Jimmy Garoppolo, I think this could end up working out in favor for Garrett Wilson. But let me go through and just check in on this, because maybe if we're live for like 3 hours tonight, guys, there's a chance we get more updates with the Drake London knee injury, with the Zach Wilson knee injury as well as this live stream goes on. And clearly there's still going to be more preseason games happening. Now it looks like the majority of starters are already pulled, so I'd imagine there are no significant injuries that we need to discuss beyond those two guys. But hopefully if we get any injury updates as we live stream here with those two players in particular, I'm able to go through and I'm able to talk about it. Okay. Dog says, is London okay? I think that based on the reports of Drake London walking around on the sidelines, it's going to be something that clearly doesn't impact Drake London for the entire season. But what we need to hope for is maybe he misses practice for a week and then is good to go a week from now. Good to go 10 days from now. Trust me, I've drafted a lot of Drake London. Drake London used to go in the middle of the 7th round in these drafts. Like, I have a ton invested in a Drake London. And what I want to do real quick is I want to pull up exactly how many drafts I have taken Zach Wilson in, because Zach Wilson was very cheap in these underdog drafts. Zach Wilson was going in like what, the 16th round? Zach Wilson in 7% of drafts. Okay. How much Elijah Moore do I have? I have Elijah Moore in 8%. So I guess I'm maybe a little bit underweight on these Jets players. Of course, we are going to have to reevaluate when their ADPs move. But George Kittle falling to us. So we decided to go Michael Pittman, Terry McLaurin there on the turn. I'm not a massive Michael Pittman fan for where he usually goes, but we just got a great price point to invest in a Michael Pittman there at the end of the 3rd round. He has an ADP of 28. We get him at 34. I have to take that value. So yeah, George Kittle, the only report that we had was he wasn't going to play in the preseason, which of course your guys like George Kittle shouldn't be playing in the preseason. So instead of taking Rashad Bateman here, I'm going to take another wide receiver that's in a very bad offense, in a very bad situation now. The offense isn't bad in Baltimore. That's probably a bad way to phrase it. The situation's going to be bad, however, for Rashad Bateman when this is a wide receiver that's going to be playing in a team that probably wants to lead the NFL in rushing attempts, that really doesn't want to throw the ball, and he has a 0% chance of being the team's leading target grabber outside of a Mark Andrews injury. So I would rather take the wide receiver 1 in a low volume passing attack that has proven himself as an elite level talent, rather than a wide receiver that was a good prospect that at best is the second option in a low volume passing attack that is unproven at this moment. Okay. So Kyler Murray and Amon-Ra St. Brown off the board. I think that we're going to go ahead. We are going to grab Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen Hurts has the overall upside to be the quarterback 1 in fantasy this upcoming season. I mean, he looked good today, but I don't really care how he looked today. We are looking at the Philadelphia Eagles as a team that has that elite level offensive line that at the same time does go out of their way. They invest into A.J. Brown. In my opinion, one of the most talented wide receivers in the entire NFL. So that has to bode well for Jalen Hurts in the situation that you have, not to mention the clear rushing upside. LOLG says, Mason, Trey Lance crushing any private drafts today. Yes, love to see our guy Trey Lance out there. And yeah, this is a private draft right here that we are in. This is going to be that $3 warm-up draft. Hopefully we can get a $250 draft going after this one. What I'm going to do is after this private draft, I'm going to go see how many spots are available in that $250 league. And if it's about to be filled, then hell yeah, we'll go through and we'll sit in there. But if I join that $250 draft lobby and there are like 10, 11 spots open, then I'm going to go ahead and just create another private draft right away for y'all to be able to get in. Brendan says Lamar and Bateman have looked very good in training camp. I'm assuming that's why Bateman has an ADP of 54, despite Rashad Bateman having 1.3 yards per route run his rookie season. I don't know. Nick says, is Deontay Johnson's hip issue going to be a big issue? I've drafted a crap ton of Deontay Johnson. Like, I have so much Deontay Johnson in drafts where this is 100% going to be something that we have to continue to monitor. At this moment, I'm not too worried about it. But if he's still going to be missing practice like 2 weeks from now, then yeah, we probably got to sound the alarms. Then we probably have to be worried that it will linger into the season. So Dalton Schultz off the board 71. Guys, what are y'all talking about in regards of Bateman haters in the chat? Like, realistically speaking, how the hell is anybody throwing hate on Rashad Bateman when he has an ADP in the middle of the 5th round? Rashad Bateman in the majority of these drafts, I mean, Rashad Bateman's ADP has him being drafted before J.K. Dobbins. There's no Rashad Bateman hate on this planet. If there was, he wouldn't be drafted this highly. I would argue that maybe wide receiver 59, if anything, is a little too early for Rashad Bateman. So there aren't, in my opinion, enough Rashad Bateman haters to fight back on this price tag with. But after we take Jalen Hurts, you have Trey Lance going immediately after to stack up with George Kittle there. Y'all know I've been betting on Trey Lance since he came into the NFL. It's very hard for me now to continue to go all in on Trey Lance and make video after video after video saying, oh, Trey Lance is the most undervalued asset in Dynasty. Oh, Trey Lance is going to be a stud quarterback when he starts based on his rushing upside in the situation he's playing in. It's hard for me to continue to make that video for the 100th time whenever he's going before Joe Burrow. And he goes before Joe Burrow in almost every single draft now. He has an ADP before Joe Burrow on Underdog. So sadly, I'm no longer going to be able to just continuously pump our bags on Trey Lance. I'm still going to root for the guy because I have him pretty much every single Dynasty league I play in, but it is going to be a lot tougher. So Drake London off the board here, picks 79. Obviously, this is going to be an injury that you have to continue to monitor. And since this is a private draft and it's going to be cumulative scoring from weeks 1 through 17, it's just who can score the most points throughout the entire season. In this kind of format, I'm not going to be interested in DeAndre Hopkins. If you're playing in a league that has the fantasy football playoffs where we need to prioritize production for weeks 15, 16, 17, hell yeah, we are going to go ahead. We are going to take DeAndre Hopkins here. But in this format, no, we're just going to grab Christian Kirk as our wide receiver 4. We're going to get someone that can start scoring points right at the beginning of the season. I'll be honestly happy for DeAndre Hopkins to go directly after us here. Like I said, if this was a typical league where we're looking for points in weeks 15, 16, 17 for that fantasy football playoff stretch, hell yes, give me all the DeAndre Hopkins in the world here. But because it's going to be cumulative scoring, I'm going to be slightly pushing down those rookies and pushing down anybody who's going to miss the beginning portion of the season, whether that's with an injury, someone like Jameson Williams or Michael Gallup, or with the suspension like DeAndre Hopkins. Okay, so Chris Olave goes directly after here. So I think we have a clear pick at 87 if he makes it to us. Yeah, our clear pick is going to be Miles Sanders. I mean, we kind of want to get some correlation in here in this Philadelphia Eagles offense between the combination of Jalen Hurts and Miles Sanders. I mean, with Sanders, we've been talking about him for a while. I understand that, yes, he was very bad last season. Yes, you had a couple touchdowns going in the direction of Kenneth Gainwell, going in the direction of Jordan Howard, which of course is annoying as hell. But we can assume that based on natural touchdown volatility in fantasy football on a year-to-year basis, that if he continues to see the workload that he had, you are eventually going to get touchdowns scored in the direction of Miles Sanders. And I want to continue to bet on this Philadelphia Eagles offense like we've been doing for God knows how long, because this is a Philadelphia Eagles offense that just added in A.J. Brown, one of the most efficient wide receivers in the NFL that should be able to be the tide that rises all boats. And on top of it, they have an elite offensive line. Miles Sanders can catch the ball. So I really like Miles Sanders here, pick 87, especially when we were able to get Jalen Hurts as our quarterback 1. I think we have a very good draft so far. Like if this was the $250 draft, I would be very excited with where we stand. So Dallas Goedert goes 93. Okay. Dallas Goedert goes off the board here, 93. James Cook, 94. Interesting. Like, we are now getting that James Cook hype. I think James Cook was undervalued for a very long time if you're just looking at the receiving role that this man is going to command in one of the best passing offenses in the entire NFL. So, I like the idea of pushing James Cook up draft boards. I don't necessarily know if we've maybe gone a little too far here. Where, who's he going before? I guess actually, no, this is fine. Like, I probably do prefer Kareem Hunt over James Cook. But, I mean, I could easily see how James Cook gets there just based on his receiving upside. So, this team at the 101 decides to reach on Tyler Boyd to get that stack with Joe Burrow. What I'll say is I completely agree. You want to go through, you want to get correlation into your starting lineup. However, if you were planning on reaching on Tyler Boyd at pick 96, I probably don't take Joe Burrow here at 73. Even if you really like the value with Burrow, I feel like taking Burrow and then being forced to reach on Tyler Boyd isn't the way to go around this. Maybe you would just take, I don't even know what the alternative of this would be. But find a different way. Take Tom Brady, and you already have Leonard Fournette on this roster. That way you don't have to reach on Burrow. I don't know. I'm fine with the value of Burrow in the 7th, but it just seems tough if you're reaching on Burrow a little bit on a team that doesn't have either Higgins or Jamar Chase, and then you're going to have to reach 20 picks on Tyler Boyd. Okay. So now we have Robert Woods going off the board 98. Matthew Stafford goes 99. At this point, I feel like we have such a balanced draft that we don't necessarily need anything. Of course, we haven't drafted a tight end yet, but I'm not going to be dying to take Zach Ertz. I'm not going to be dying to take Dawson Knox. I think I would probably be fine just continue to hammer in some wide receiver and running back value. So what's the report that we had on Kareem Hunt today? Not suiting up Friday, so essentially not playing the preseason. Hunt recently held himself out of team drills and training camp due to a desire for a new contract, but he eventually returned to full capacity at practice after 2 days. I didn't know that. How did I not know that? Still, he won't be available to the Browns offense along with other top running backs, Nick Chubb. So Dearness Johnson, Demetric Felton, and Jerome Ford all played today. I'll admit, I did not get to see any of the Browns game today. Let me know if you had any massive takeaways from the Browns performance. Obviously, Deshaun Watson did look really bad. I mean, based on what I saw on Twitter, he looked really bad. Okay, Derek Carr goes 104. So we are going to get one of these wide receivers, whether that's Marquez Valdez-Scantling or Tyler Lockett here, pick 106. I'm going to be completely fine with either, considering the format that we're playing in, and you have to start 3 wide receivers every single week, and it's going to be best ball as well. So I'm fine taking these guys. What I want to see is, where does Garrett Wilson go in this draft? MVS off the board. I actually was kind of hoping that we got Tyler Lockett. We drafted DK Metcalf, so maybe we are just getting some correlation in there saying if somehow, some way, the Seattle Seahawks are maybe the team who pulls off a Jimmy Garoppolo trade, highly unlikely because they're in the same division, but still possible, then all of a sudden maybe both wide receivers are undervalued, or if somehow, some way, Drew Lock is better than expected, even though that's probably not likely. But we'll see. We'll see. Zach Ertz goes here 107. I'll say Zach Ertz is more appealing in this format, given the fact that this is a player that will have the majority of that production weeks 1 through 6. And even if he falls off near the end of the season with the return of DeAndre Hopkins, as well as maybe Trey McBride coming in, it's not going to impact him too much in a format like this where points at the beginning of the season matter so much. So here I think we just go ahead. We take Melvin Gordon. I mean, with Melvin Gordon, we've talked about this time and time again, but this is a running back that should have a nice role on a week-to-week basis. And at the same time, of course, the main reason you're drafting him is the contingency value if something were to occur to Javonte Williams. If Javonte Williams were to go down, then all of a sudden you're going to be sitting in a beautiful situation with Melvin Gordon as the 3-down running back in one of the best offenses in the NFL. I mean, right now, I think if you would project these out, how many offenses are you projecting to be better than Russell Wilson's Denver Broncos this season? I don't know. And I know some people like Mike Boone. Obviously, Mike Boone, speaking of the preseason, has had some pretty good preseason games, has had some pretty good moments, but he's not a good NFL running back. So I think Melvin Gordon would see 70, 80% of the team's touches in that overall situation. Aaron coming out, thank you, says, Foreman or Chuba Hubbard as the backup to Christian McCaffrey? Personally, maybe I'm biased. Of course, hook 'em horns. I'm going to be going ahead. I'm going to be taking Donta Foreman over Chuba Hubbard. Donta Foreman's a running back that was brought in this offseason, was given a nice contract right at the beginning of free agency, and obviously he looked very good down the stretch whenever you did have the Derrick Henry injury last season. And real quick, guys, if you have not done so already, please go down there. Drop a like on the live stream. Drop a like on the stream. If we hit 300 likes, we are going to fire up that next draft. And hopefully that next draft is going to be a $250 one. Now, if the $250 draft is not close to filling, then we'll go ahead. We'll just get a private draft going for people in here. It'll probably be like a $5 draft, a $3 draft, $10 draft, just a practice draft so we can get in as many as possible. A lot of people in the chat saying that they need that puppy 4 on Underdog. Guys, I don't know if there will be a puppy 4 anytime soon. Of course, way over my pay grade. I wish I was important enough for Underdog to give me this information. I don't even know if Underdog knows. But I would imagine right now they want the majority of people entering into Best Ball Mania. And with Best Ball Mania still like 50% open, I think we shouldn't expect a puppy anytime soon. I am praying. Trust me. Today was my first day in months that I haven't been able to draft at the gym. Like, you have any idea of how boring my workout was when I was not in an Underdog draft throughout all of it. Like, I'm hoping that we get more puppy drafts coming back soon. I truly am. But I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see one this week. Okay. Now, Irv Smith Jr. goes 122, and Garrett Wilson fell to 120 here. Like we were saying earlier on, like if you do have Jimmy Garoppolo making his way over to New York, in my opinion, Garrett Wilson would move up there with Sky Moore. Like, I'm not the biggest Jimmy Garoppolo fan in the world. Like, trust me, y'all know last year I was just screaming every single week that we wanted to see Trey Lance, put Trey Lance in there. I did have Lance in so many dynasty rosters that maybe I was being a little bit selfish. But at the end of the day, Jimmy Garoppolo was a couple drives away from going to the Super Bowl last season. And of course, a lot of that is to do with the actual 49ers roster, Kyle Shanahan, yada, yada, yada. But compared to the quarterback play of Zach Wilson, I don't want to say Jimmy Garoppolo is definitely going to have a better NFL career. Like, maybe Zach Wilson can develop next year and the year after that to eventually be a better quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo. But as it stands today, I'd imagine Jimmy G is probably the guy you want to be betting on. Okay. I think if Cousins falls here, do we just go ahead and take Kirk Cousins? We don't have any stacks with him. I mean, we don't have Jefferson. We don't have Adam Thielen, but we would be getting him 13 picks behind ADP. Who else could we even be looking at here? I like the idea of just going to go ahead. We're just going to take Kirk Cousins as our quarterback too. And that was probably a bad mistake now that I think on this, because they had the same bye. We probably want to be going ahead taking a third quarterback. We'll draft someone in the very last round. We'll draft someone in the last round. Okay, so Tua and Justin Fields go directly after. Maybe we made the right call taking Kirk Cousins there. Let me know what y'all think. I mean, we do have Dalvin Cook, so maybe you make the argument we have some correlation that way. Jahan Dotson off the board. We're going to go ahead. We're going to reach. We don't have a tight end yet, but I really do like Pat Freiermuth in this range. Like, once you get to the 12th round, I really like just grabbing Pat Freiermuth here, because I think you can make an argument that Pat Freiermuth is a tight end that needs to be above guys like Dawson Knox, Zach Ertz. Obviously, they're much better offenses, but I think Freiermuth is the much better talent. And I would say that Pat Freiermuth definitely needs to be ahead of someone like, or not ahead, but at least neck and neck, right next to Cole Kmet and Irv Smith Jr. Oh, but Deshaun Watson off the board here at 138. I hate Deshaun Watson in these private drafts specifically, because if you're drafting like in a league where it's a perfect example, if you're in Best Ball Mania on Underdog, you were in a public drafts on Underdog, where you need to be prioritizing for production in weeks 15, 16, 17, and you need to have the highest ceiling possible during those weeks. In that kind of format, I like to see Watson off the board, maybe in the 15th, where his ADP is. I love taking him there. But in this format where it's just cumulative scoring, who can score the most points weeks 1 through 17, hate Watson. Hate Watson here. Okay. Apparently, Romeo Dubs scored tonight. Dear God. So you know his ADP is not going to slow down anytime soon. Yeah. Let me look this up. This is just going to be someone that gets so steamed up where I'm already not even considering him. He was already going like 12 picks within Christian Watson in these drafts. Now I know I'm never going to be able to draft the guy. Now we have Robbie Anderson off the board, 145. So we have a decent amount of wide receivers going. So yeah, Romeo Doubs goes here, 137 before Christian Watson. I'm selling. I'm a seller. I'm sorry, guys. I have to be a seller here. Henry calling out the Marquez Callaway hype from last year. Yeah, if you don't remember, I mean, Marquez Callaway was a wide receiver that after the preseason, he got steamed up to being what? What was his peak last year? Marquez Callaway got steamed up from being like an 18th round selection to someone, was he going in the single digits in terms of the rounds? Okay, so Hunter Henry goes 152. There's a player that I would really like to get here, pick 154. Let's see if he ends up falling to us. I'm assuming that he does, looking at the team right before us. They have 1 quarterback, 3 running backs, 6 receivers, and 2 tight ends. This is the team that ended up getting the Trey Lance and George Kittle stack. Henry says, I had seen round 8 Callaway. That's what I was thinking. I thought that Callaway got up to like round 9. Maybe my memory's failing me, but he got up to being drafted way too early. Yeah, so here, KJ Hamler, in my opinion, is the easiest selection you're ever going to make. This is a wide receiver that I love, but he is the only player that currently has a jersey hanging up in our studio. Now, of course, if Courtland Sutton ends up being the top 10 wide receiver this season, he will be also getting his own spot up there. But with KJ Hamler, this is a wide receiver that was drafted in the 2nd round in that 2020 draft alongside Jerry Jeudy. He was the youngest wide receiver in that draft as well. There are a lot of reasons to be excited about KJ Hamler, especially if we're talking preseason. Y'all remember what he did last year? Beautiful. Okay. So now we have Jameson Williams going off 157. Williams is very similar to what we were speaking on with, say, someone like Deshaun Watson earlier. Love him at this value in a league where you're prioritized to score in weeks 15, 16, 17 for the fantasy football playoffs. In this league, in my opinion, not the spot to be drafting him. So let's go ahead. We probably just want to take Gerald Everett here. I think we're only going to need 1 more running back. We're going to grab our 2nd tight end with Gerald Everett. And in this kind of format, I think we probably end up taking 3 tight ends, just given the fact that we don't need to hoard the wide receiver position because it's cumulative scoring throughout the entire season. Okay, let's scroll this down. I don't even think that there's a quote-unquote correct pick there at 159. I think it almost just comes down to what the drafters do after we take Gerald Everett here. Like, we have to compare Gerald Everett in this selection to the other tight ends that would have been available in the 15th round. Hartnell says Tyler Algier looked awful tonight. I really do not want to overreact to anybody's individual performance tonight. I want to look at usage. I want to try to figure out what the depth chart's going to be and who's the running back 2, who's the running back 3, who's not going to make the team, etc. But in terms of, player X looked bad through 2 drives, I'm not going down that rabbit hole. But real quick, guys, if y'all want another draft after this one, please make sure you go down there and drop that like on the live stream. We are 70 likes away from firing up another one. Maybe y'all want to just watch the preseason games, which would be completely fine. I'd be fine watching the preseason games as well. We don't have to do a 3-4 hour live stream tonight. Maybe I can save my voice, but Wan'Dale Robinson goes off 167. I would like to get a $250 draft. Kobe says, don't care about anyone's performance besides Trey Lance tonight. Speaking my language, my friend. Speaking my language. Yeah, how you use the preseason correctly is if a player that you liked has a good performance, then hell yes, wheels up for that player. They are going to crush this season. If a player that you like had a bad performance, you go, oh, no, preseason doesn't matter. And you can also do that on the opposite end of the spectrum. So if you didn't like a player and they had a bad performance, yeah, that player's bad. They're going to be a horrible pick in fantasy. But if you didn't like a player and they had a good performance, preseason doesn't matter. Just remember that. Yeah. Corvette says, so Zach Wilson is done for the season. Yeah, I think it's way, 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 way too early to say that. Way too early to say that. I mean, if we're looking right now, let me pull up the most recent reports that we have Zach Wilson. We have some people speculating that he tore his ACL. Like, let me watch the video again. Like, why it was scary is, obviously, it was a non-contact. Like, I'm watching in slow motion at this point. Yeah. It's too early to tell, but tomorrow we should know. We should definitely know. Derek coming out. Happy to have you out here, my man. David Njoku, Noah Fant off the board. Okay, so now that we're looking at all these tight ends gone, I think maybe that Gerald Everett selection there in the 14th round was the correct decision. Now, if we're moving on beyond this, let's look at some of these other options. We are 2 picks away. I would be fine grabbing a third quarterback here. Yeah, what's the report that Underdog has on Zach Wilson? Yeah, coming from RotoWire. Wilson sustained a right knee injury during Friday's preseason game at the blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so essentially nothing. We have nothing at the for the time being. Let's go ahead. Let's draft Jamison Crowder here. I mean, let's just take the bet that maybe he ends up winning that slot wide receiver job over Isaiah McKenzie. It's too early to tell, though. Henry says, let's get that big dog going. Yeah, guys. Make sure you go down there and drop that like in the live stream. We are 35 likes away on the stream from firing up another draft after this one. And I think here in the 16th round, we're probably going to go ahead and take a running back. I'm not a big Zamir White guy. Like, I'm completely fine seeing Zamir White go. I'm not going to be crying myself to sleep over the fact that we didn't get 16th round Zamir White. Mace Man on the clock. He only has 1 quarterback and 1 tight end, so I'd imagine he probably ends up taking one of each year. He goes Austin Hooper, pick 180. Will Fuller, 181. Y'all know I like the Will Fuller call. Here, I think we're just going to take a running back, whoever falls between Marlon Mack and Raheem Mostert. So if you have a preference between these 2 RBs, let me know right now in the live chat. If you have a preference between these 2 guys, please let me know who you want. The Truth says, thoughts on Zamir White, question mark. He will never be a pass catcher. So, A, he has to overcome Josh Jacobs. B, even if he does do that, he's going to be a undersized first and second down grinder. Okay, so we have Mack, Mostert, Mack. Okay, it looks like the majority of people are saying Marlon Mack here. So we will go ahead. We'll take Marlon Mack as our 5th running back. I think we're going to be done at the running back position after this selection. I'll probably be fine to go ahead and take another quarterback just because this is one of those private drafts where we only have to beat 11 other teams. So the best ball format, I think we are just going to get enough starts from that 3rd quarterback where it makes sense taking him over, say, I don't even know who we're going to be looking at on the way back around, taking him over someone like Sammy Watkins, who goes directly after us, funny enough. Okay. Ryan says, Mason Wilson confirmed ACL tear. Guys, I do not think it's confirmed. It's not. I'll go and search it one more time. Maybe it just happened, but I would imagine that my phone would be blowing up if it was a confirmed ACL tear. Let me just double check this. Yeah. Shefty hasn't tweeted anything. If Shefty hasn't tweeted anything, I think that it hasn't happened. Yeah, JN says he would be coming out here. He'd be spamming the chat. Yeah, people would be spamming the chat if everybody got that ESPN alert that it's confirmed that Zach Wilson does have the ACL tear. But let me know, guys, what do you think? If Zach Wilson suffers that sustained injury, will we see a new starting quarterback coming out from maybe San Francisco? Will we see Jimmy Garoppolo there in New York, or is it just going to end up being Joe Flacco? Because honestly, what I would love to do, I guess maybe the sports books probably have the lines down right now. But what I really want to see is I want to see Jimmy Garoppolo get traded over to the New York Jets, mainly just because I want to see how Vegas ends up changing his overall line. Like, would all of a sudden, if Jimmy Garoppolo gets traded to the Jets, I believe they had a win total of like 6.5. I know it was definitely low. Would that win total go up? I'm assuming it would. Caden says, Browns interested in Jimmy Garoppolo. How real is that? Guys, whenever I see a report like that, I never think really anything of it, because what would be an incentive if the Cleveland Browns truly wanted to go out there and trade for Jimmy Garoppolo? Why would we know about it? Why would the Browns let that get out? They want to increase the price on Jimmy Garoppolo. Probably people from the 49ers going out of their way saying, hey guys, I don't know. We're maybe going to trade Jimmy G to Cleveland, even if it's not true at all, because inherently that's just going to increase the asking price for Jimmy Garoppolo from a team like the New York Jets. So if we just get random reports out of the media like that, in my opinion, don't read into it too much. I don't think it's that important. But real quick, we are about 5 likes away on the live stream from firing up our next draft. So thank you all so much. If you have not done so already, go down there, drop that like. We will be firing up the next draft on Underdog in just 1 second. Let me make these last 2 selections, and then we'll run through. I'll try to join the $250 draft lobby. If it's close to being filled, we'll draft the $250 team after this. If not, then we'll go ahead. I'll create a private draft for everybody in here. So J.D. McKissick goes 197. Benjamin 198, Laviska Shenault 199. Yeah, so if this was, say, a tournament-style draft where we need to have the highest ceiling possible, weeks 15, 16, 17, I do go ahead. I take another wide receiver here because you want to take advantage of that wide receiver volatility. But I guess now, are we just going to reach on someone like Marcus Mariota? We probably are, because if you just think about it, who's going to give us more points? Mariota through the course of the season with some rushing upside, or freaking Gus Edwards, Devin Duvernay. Like, it's probably going to be Mariota. But like I said, I would not make this play if we were in a tournament draft. Like, if we're in the $250 draft, I'm not taking Mariota here. I'm probably taking David Bell. And then let's just go ahead. Let's fire up this $250 draft on Underdog. And there are 8 spots open, so we're not going to draft on this. We are going to leave here because it's $250 draft. It would take too long to get it filled. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to create a private draft for everybody. Let's just do a $3 private draft, just a warm-up draft. Don't go and join the $3 draft lobby. We're not doing a public one. This is just going to be private. I'm going to copy this link and send this out to everybody in the chat. I know everybody's spamming the chat saying, wait, we'll fill up the $250. Guys, we have so many opportunities to do that. I'm probably going to be drafting 3-4 teams tonight. So don't you worry at all. But let me go and make sure that we are picking in that other draft. Okay, so yeah, we probably just want to grab a tight end here. Okay, we are done there. Okay, so this draft getting filled almost immediately, of course. STE Rag coming out with the donation. Thank you so much. I truly do appreciate it. And we are going to be picking at the 106. In my opinion, the 106 is going to be one of the worst spots to pick at on Underdog Fantasy because you have to start 3 wide receivers every single week. And if you are just now coming into the live stream and you've been living under a rock for the past year, because I've said it in every single live stream for the past year and you don't know, we are drafting on Underdog Fantasy, the best place to get in some extra best ball drafts this summer to prepare for your main fantasy football league. And if you want to draft with us in the live stream, which we draft every single night, if you want to draft in the public lobby with your friends, if you want to just have some fun drafting in general, make sure you go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code FLOCK. You can find the link in the description of the live stream or in the live chat. And when you sign up for Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK and make a $10 deposit, they'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. You'll get our 2022 rankings and you'll get our 2022 draft guide. 300 pages of our draft guide with a $10 deposit. So make sure you take advantage of that. But Jonathan Taylor going off the board here at the 101. Yeah, I mean, we're never getting Taylor at pick 6. This doesn't matter at all, really. I'm assuming that we get maybe Let's see. Oh, crap. Crap. Guys, we made a mistake. This is a slow draft. I'm going to have to create a new draft. If you did not get in this one, no worries. But look, that's a 10-hour time clock. It's my mistake, everybody. It's my fault for trying to do this and live stream at the same time. So if you're setting up these drafts on Underdog, the little slow, that little timer icon, that's a slow draft. That's where you're going to have like 8, 10-hour timers. If it doesn't have that, then that is going to be the fast draft. That's going to be a 30-second timer, which, of course, is what we need to be doing on the live stream. We don't need to be sitting here for 10 hours for someone to make their pick. So I apologize so much for that. Of course, I'm going to finish that draft off the live stream, so you're still going to get in a draft with me if you join that one. But here is the fast $3 draft. I apologize, guys. I apologize. So this will be just, yet again, another warm-up for us to get in that $250 one. Floodgates says, love you, Mason. Who's the better stack? Lance and Debo, Dak and Lamb, Brady and Evans, or Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown? I love this question, okay? If I would rank these quarterbacks, in my opinion, given the rushing upside that we have and what we saw last year, I think that Jalen Hurts is going to be the best option in terms of the quarterbacks. If we're looking at the wide receivers, I personally would prefer CeeDee Lamb. I think A.J. Brown is probably at the bottom of this list. So I do think that it does come down to your personal preference. Of course, you know, I want to root for my guy in Trey Lance. I want to say Trey Lance, but at the end of the day, I don't know if I'm being biased here. I don't know if we're pumping our own bags. So, oh my gosh. A 4-point passing touchdown format. Let's go Trey Lance and Deebo Samuel. Lance has similar rushing upside of what you're going to get with someone like Jalen Hurts in a better situation. And hell, Deebo Samuel was the wide receiver 3 on a points per game basis last year. And of course, just got one hell of a contract. So let's go Trey Lance and Deebo Samuel. But please, guys, go and check Floodgates message in the live chat. It should be pinned to the top because it's a donation question. And spam the chat with your preferred stack. Are you going to prefer Lance and Debo, Brady and Evans, Dak and Lamb? Or I think the last one was Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown. Glitch Aspect says Justin Herbert for MVP. I think it's 100% possible. I mean, if you're looking at the Los Angeles Chargers in general, they should have a significantly better defense this season. And if this team can win the division, if this team can be a first or second team in the AFC, and obviously we know that Jalen Hurts is that elite level quarterback. I'm sorry, Justin Herbert is the elite level quarterback. Yeah, I think he could easily win MVP. But now picking at 8, I'm assuming that maybe this is a Derrick Henry start. Austin Eckler goes at 6. So let's see if Stephon Diggs goes. Yeah, Stephon Diggs goes. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to take Derrick Henry. I mean, with Derrick Henry, I know we get a lot of hate because they tell people not to draft him inside the top 5. But on Underdog, look at his ADP. You get Derrick Henry picks 8, 9, 10 very often. So even though on the channel, I get hate for telling people not to draft Derrick Henry, find myself on Underdog drafting a decent amount of Derrick Henry because pick 8, pick 9, pick 10 is 100% fair value. Okay. So now let me read the chat. A-Shine says they prefer Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown. JN says also Lance and Debo. AG says Brady and Evans. Interesting. Yeah, so I will go ahead. I will screenshot your message, Floodgate, because I think this is a super good question. And I'm going to tweet this out tomorrow morning. I don't know if you're following me on Twitter. I think you can find my Twitter in the description. It's at Build the Dynasty or at Flock Fantasy. And I'm assuming this will get like 100 replies because it's such a good question. And you should be able to get some good insight in that comment section. But here, let's see what we end up doing. Maybe we take that guy that we were referencing earlier in Deebo Samuel, part of that Trey Lance stack. Let's see what this team, Vikings for life on the clock. And I don't want to say what we're thinking on third round, but I have some thoughts of what we can do in the third round after Derrick Henry start in the first. Jaggy says, how surprised would you be if Saquon Barkley is the top player this season? Not really surprised. I mean, Saquon Barkley was the top running back prospect, in my opinion, of all time. If you go through and look at his profile with his elite athletic profile at the NFL Combine, combined with his size and his receiving down usage at Penn State. So he has that box checked. He has obviously a much improved coaching staff. Hopefully he's fully healthy. And this was a running back that's been able to get to a 20% team target share in a single NFL season right at the beginning of his NFL career. So I would be surprised. I wouldn't project Saquon Barkley to be the top player in fantasy, but I think it is in the range of outcomes. Okay. AG Late Night says, Mike Evans always getting 1,000 yards. I would not necessarily look at it through that lens. I always look at everything through the lens of points per game. I mean, I think if we're just looking at counting stats, you can easily go through and you can skew numbers and go, oh, look at how good Michael Pittman Jr. was last year, even though he wasn't a top 24 wide receiver on a points per game basis. And then you can convince yourself that Michael Pittman Jr. is a top 5 wide receiver this season because his counting stats in a 17-game year last year. Of course, that's just one example, but there are so many examples in fantasy football that just looking at counting stat numbers are going to probably skew your opinion and make you a little bit too biased. Okay. So AJ Brown goes off the board here, 25. AJ Brown was someone that was falling a little bit earlier on this offseason to about like pick 29, 30 in a lot of these drafts. Since then, I really feel like AJ Brown has settled into a player that's never really going behind someone like Michael Pittman, like I used to occasionally see. Now, T. Higgins, Michael Pittman go off the board 27, 28. Really like that start of Justin Jefferson, Mike Evans, and T. Higgins through the first 3 rounds there. I mean, obviously, it looks a little nerve-wracking at running back, but in Underdog, when you have to start 3 wide receivers, those running backs are going to fall down to you in a range that is really nice. Now, hell yes, we get Kyle Pitts. This is what we were thinking with the start of Derrick Henry. And why I'm very excited about Kyle Pitts is, A, I think he is probably one of the best values in the 3rd round as it stands. And B, if we're looking at Kyle Pitts, hell, what if this Drake London injury is serious? What if Drake London is a wide receiver that has his injury linger into the season, where all of a sudden Kyle Pitts is a tight end that sees a 25, 26% team target share? I really like the idea of going through and just taking Kyle Pitts here, pick 32. I feel like it's only room for upside. If you look at the production that he had his rookie season, this was a tight end that was a 21-year-old rookie that, if we're comparing him to Mike Williams and Michael Pittman, had essentially the same amount of receiving yards. Henry says he did a draft from the 9 spot on Underdog earlier today and got Diggs, Lamb, Pitts, and Allen to start. How? Diggs at 9, Lamb in the 2nd, then Pitts and Josh Allen. Maybe your league was pushing up running backs, and I hope you were able to get some solid running backs with upside later on. But still, that seems very strong. We are going to go ahead. We're going to take Travis Etienne at pick 45. Etienne was trending on Twitter earlier today just because he did go out there. He had some pretty solid runs. He made some highlight plays. Like I said, please don't be reacting to anything that you see in the preseason, but I mean, we stand by what we've said since Travis Etienne came into the NFL. He's DeAndre Swift. They're the same guy. They're running backs that are elite pass catchers that have the size to have a workload in the red zone. So I really like the idea of going through, betting on Travis Etienne. Yes, I'm worried about James Robinson slightly, but still, you are getting a discount here at pick 41. Breece Hall goes at 42. Even with the Zach Wilson injury, we have now seen back-to-back drafts where Breece Hall has been drafted pretty aggressively. So I figured we would have maybe some people scared of this situation in New York, but it doesn't appear that way on the surface. So that team, Iggy Ice, that decided to go Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill, Keenan Allen, and Jerry Jeudy, now is setting themselves up in a position where maybe they just work this draft room, especially if Parking decides to double tap the wide receiver position at the 4-5 turn. It could have been interesting if those teams both started 4 or 5 wide receivers in a row, how that maybe would have affected the supply and demand of the wide receiver position later on in this draft for some of these other teams like ourselves, who we only have Deebo Samuel through the first 4 rounds at wide receiver. Okay, Henry says, Jimmy G was supposed to go to the Browns if Deshaun Watson is suspended more than 8 games. Okay, let me go through and search this. Like, where are y'all getting this? Where are y'all getting this? Highlight says, just cashed a $90 player pick'em on Underdog with a $15 entry. Use code FLOCK on Underdog for my boy Mason. Thank you, my man. Of course, you know I appreciate that. And congrats on that pick'em. I personally have been staying away from the pick'ems during the preseason. I'm not nearly smart enough to be able to go through and project preseason usage. Trust me, I wish I was smart enough to do it, but I feel like if I was doing pick'ems at this point, I would just be lighting my own money on fire. So I've stayed away from it this preseason, but I will be making some pick'em videos for y'all during the year. Elijah Mitchell off the board here, 53. So it looks like, well, we thought maybe these wide receivers were going to slide up given what those teams did early on. It's almost the exact opposite. You actually have those running backs going up. And because on Underdog, you have to go through, you have to start 3 wide receivers. I think we take Brandon Cooks here, pick 56. I mean, with Brandon Cooks at 56, I'm not as excited about him in a league where we're having to chase the highest ceiling possible, because I do think that he is going to have that capped ceiling based on Davis Mills in this offense, in my opinion, not necessarily being a good NFL quarterback. But at the end of the day, we know he's going to get the raw number of targets that we're searching for. And on top of this, we only have to beat 11 other owners in this league. We're not having to worry about that large field tournament contest. Okay, Tom is saying the Drake London injury is reportedly not serious. Okay, let's go through and let me search Drake London, see if we have any updates. Yeah, based on what I initially read after the Drake London injury, it sounded like he was walking around the sidelines like he was going to be good. Drake London. Okay, so Shetty tweeted out, Falcons head coach Arthur Smith said the team would know more Saturday night about the knee injury that Drake London suffered tonight, but one source was encouraged early on and said it's not a serious injury, still further testing ahead. Okay. It's funny, you click on the Shefty tweet, and right below that, it's Atlanta Sports Stan commenting, we run the league like they're not about to be a bottom 3 team in the NFL. Okay. Now let's go through and pull this back around. And maybe this is back-to-back drafts where we go ahead and we get our guy, Jalen Hurts. I think it's probably very scary to be drafting Elijah Moore when we don't necessarily know whose quarterback's going to be. At the same time, I think it's probably pretty scary to be drafting Drake London if this injury maybe is more serious than advertised. We took Jalen Hurts in the last draft in the 6th. Jalen Hurts, one of my most drafted quarterbacks in fantasy this year, because I truly am very excited to see what we end up getting in terms of the impact that A.J. Brown is going to make into this offense. Very excited about the impact that A.J. Brown's going to make. And also he has that elite level offensive line. Okay, Joe Burrow goes pick 68. So a little bit early for Burrow if you're looking at his ADP, but that is the Jamar Chase team. Usually I wait until the 7th round if I'm going to take Burrow. Like, my rule with drafting Joe Burrow is I'll take him at the beginning of the 7th if I took either T. Higgins in the 2nd or 3rd round or Jamar Chase in the 1st. And I'll take Joe Burrow at the end of the 7th, the beginning of the 8th, almost regardless of who I have, because we can get Tyler Boyd later on. And I do really like the value of a Joe Burrow there. Real quick, guys, if you have not done so already, please go down there. Drop a like on the live stream. If we hit 500 likes in the stream, we will go ahead. We'll fire up a 3rd draft. Hopefully, it'll be a $250 draft after this one. Buzz Walker says, I know you like both, but would you trade Swift for Travis Etienne in a future 2023 second? I have Saquon Barkley, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Devontae Adams, Amari Cooper, Kareem Hunt, and Garrett Wilson as my other players. You need more than a 2nd round pick. I mean, with DeAndre Swift, he's the known quantity that you have compared to Travis Etienne. I would go ahead. I would keep DeAndre Swift over the future 2nd and Travis Etienne. Now, Antonio Gibson off the board, pick 75. Jacobs 70. Let's scroll this over. And like I said, in this format, I'm going to be passing on Hopkins if he falls here. There's just no incentive to take DeAndre Hopkins in a league where we don't have the fantasy football playoffs. Clyde Edwards-Helaire goes 77, and I was worried that something may have happened in Kansas City regarding Clyde Edwards-Helaire, because let me pull my phone out real quick. I had the opportunity to take Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the $1,000 draft. I know no, this wasn't a $1,000 draft. We're way past that point, but in a $100 slow draft on Underdog that I'm currently in. Let me show you what pick we are at and what pick we got him. Okay, so Dalton Schultz off the board. At this point, I think we are put in a pretty difficult spot. Let's go ahead. Let's reach on Miles Sanders. I think if we're taking Miles Sanders here, we are getting a running back that I like and an offense that I like. We are getting correlation with our draft pick in the 6th round of Jalen Hurts. Of course, it's not necessarily great value, but at the same time, I think it's going to be fine with Miles Sanders. So yeah, going back to what I was saying, I recently got Clyde Edwards-Helaire at the 8-11, pick 95 in that $100 draft. That draft is just beautiful at this point. But Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott go directly after us. Let me know what you would have done there instead of taking Miles Sanders at pick 80. Would y'all have just taken Allen Lazard? I'm going to be really hesitant to do that. I'm trying to not throw in the towel. I'm trying to hold out, stay strong, and not give in to the peer pressure of drafting Allen Lazard. Okay. So Lazard finally does go off the board to pick 83. Still not a massive fan of Allen Lazard at that point. Okay. Now, after this, I'm assuming we get someone like Tony Pollard, Hunter Renfrow off. Hunter Renfrow goes there, pick 84. This team on the clock only has one running back. Now, their running back is going to be Saquon Barkley, so I'm sure that they're excited about said RB. But they decided to take Chase Edmonds here, pick 85. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. Obviously, on Underdog, like, you do have Tony Pollard with an ADP of what, like 8, 9 picks before this? Actually, I guess only 5 picks before this, but he does have an ADP like 15 picks before Chase Edmonds. But in reality, I mean, hell, Edmonds can be the starting running back on his own roster, and he doesn't need an injury for it to happen, where obviously that's not going to happen for Tony Pollard. Now, if Pollard were to fall to us at 89, we would have gone ahead and we would have taken him. Because this is cumulative scoring, and we really want to prioritize guys that are going to be scoring from day one, this is a hard pick. F it, let's take DeAndre Hopkins here. I don't think it's great. If this was a league with fantasy football playoffs, I'd be jumping up and down. But if we're looking at the other players in this range, like these rookies, how confident are we that Treylon Burks is going to be a factor that's hitting our starting lineup the day that he steps onto the field in week 1? I can't necessarily say with certainty that Treylon Burks, while I do like the value of him, is going to be that player making an impact at the beginning portion of the season. So if we're going to know that DeAndre Hopkins outscores him on a points per game basis, and it's not like we're getting that many more usable weeks at the beginning of the year of Treylon Burks, let's go ahead. Let's take Hopkins here at 89. I do think that we are kind of put in a difficult position, but let me know what you're thinking. Okay. So everybody's spamming the chat so confident that Zach Wilson has the torn ACL. I don't think it's looking great for Zach Wilson, guys, but y'all are a little early on this. Let's see. Where did Elijah Moore go in this draft? Elijah Moore fell to pick 69. That's a little later than where he usually goes. But still, at the same time, it's not a massive difference. I think he has an ADP of like 66. So let's see where Garrett Wilson gets drafted. I mean, Garrett Wilson usually goes there at the beginning of the 10th round, and usually I would be very excited to draft Garrett Wilson at the beginning of the 10th. So we'll see. I mean, we're going to be put in that same situation of do we actually want to bring in Wilson? But after we take DeAndre Hopkins, you have a lot of running backs, a lot of wide receivers off the board. I mean, if we were talking about any picks standing out in this range, they all kind of look standard. I know obviously everybody's on board with just pushing Ramondre Stevenson up as high as they possibly can, especially with the reports that we have Damian Harris potentially getting traded, with James White announcing his retirement. Like, it's all lining up. The stars are all aligning for Ramondre Stevenson to have the breakout season this upcoming year. Well, let's move this over. Dallas Goedert goes pick 100. And Nick says 9 times out of 10, that's a torn ACL. That's just so brutal for the New York Giants fans. So brutal. And we just posted a TikTok, too, of saying that Zach Wilson is going to fail. I'm not saying, oh, we call this. I'm just saying that people are probably going to hate me so much now for saying that. Like if that comes across their timeline now. No, yeah, we are about to get some real hate thrown in our direction. But at 103, honestly, this would be the format where I'd take Rashad Penny just because I don't care if Kenneth Walker gets that job by the time we get near the end of the season when it actually matters. Because here in this format, Penny's the starter at the beginning of the year. That's great as well. So at this point, let's go ahead. Let's just reach on a wide receiver that I like. I mean, I think he's going to be the last wide receiver in this tier. I know we're definitely reaching, but a lot of these running backs are going to be the same for me, and I think we can get one of these running backs in round 10. Let's go ahead. Let's take Tyler Boyd. I mean, if you're looking at Tyler Boyd being drafted as the wide receiver 51, hell, this is a wide receiver that last year finished significantly before this, and obviously has the contingency upside if something were to occur to T. Higgins, if something were to occur to Jamar Chase, where Tyler Boyd would, in my opinion, like, you answer this for me. Like, maybe I'm wrong, but if Jamar Chase goes down for the season, if T. Higgins goes down for the year, if we see something like that happen, is it making Tyler Boyd automatically a top 24 running back in fantasy? I would say yes, probably. Sorry, not running back, wide receiver, obviously, but let me know if you think I'm wrong. Nick says Mason Curse, Zach Wilson. Of course, I do not have the ability to do that, but Alex says Tyler Boyd, the running back. Yeah, Tyler Boyd, best running back in the game. So Ram out here, thank you, my man. Says, and now that it looks like Alvin Kamara will not face a suspension this season, does it change your rankings and projections for him? I will agree that I think it's unlikely that Alvin Kamara does serve a suspension this season, but it's still in the range of outcomes where we may not necessarily have to worry about it with some of the other players in that range. So if you're going to look at where I have Alvin Kamara in our rankings, I'm not going to have him alongside like the Dalvin Cook, the Derrick Henry, the Joe Mixon, where he's historically been. I'm going to have him just 1 to 2 tiers below that. I will have him above those guys like Javonte Williams, Nick Chubb, etc. Because while, yes, he's trending in the right direction, at the same time, we're not completely out of the woods. But we posted our updated rankings today, and those rankings that we posted today 100% take into account the situation that he has as it stands. Okay, so Jalen Tolbert off the board. We said that we were going to take Tyler Boyd in the last round so we can go ahead so we can get a running back in this one. I think that's the plan. We go ahead, we take Kenneth Walker. I mean, here with Kenneth Walker, this is a running back that I've been drafting any chance we get in the 10th round. I mean, he was a great prospect coming out if you're looking at his size-adjusted athleticism. The one red flag that you have with the Kenneth Walker profile is this is never going to be a running back that goes out there and catches passes. Sadly, I mean, trust me, I would love for Kenneth Walker to all of a sudden develop as a pass catcher, but in reality, it's probably not going to happen. So we shouldn't just pretend like it is. Let's call it as it is. He's a running back that 100% has elite level traits that we can be excited about. But at the same time, he does have his own limitations. But that's why we are getting him at a discount here. Okay, so let's scroll this down for anybody just now coming into the draft. And Matthew Stafford falls far in this draft here. Matthew Stafford falling down to pick 117. Dear God, is that the team that decided to take Cooper Kupp? Yeah, so if you're the team that took Cooper Kupp in the 4th round and you're still getting you're still getting Stafford at 117, literally almost 20 picks behind Derek Carr, you have to be so excited about that selection. Now, where did Garrett Wilson go in this draft? Garrett Wilson goes at 111, so this is literally exactly where he was going before the Zach Wilson injury. This is no change for Garrett Wilson, no change for Elijah Mitchell, as well as no change at all for Breece Hall. Are people really not concerned about this? I guess people really think that Jimmy Garoppolo is coming over, because if Joe Flacco's the quarterback, while I was not a big Zach Wilson fan, we actively said Zach Wilson was going to be bad. Joe Flacco will be a significantly worse quarterback because he has no upside. We know what he is. We know what he is. Okay, so Aaron Rodgers goes 123. Joshua Palmer 124. I like the Aaron Rodgers 123 pick. I mean, with Rodgers, I do think that he's going to be able to spread the ball out. I think you are going to get some random spike weeks. Let's move this down. And with this next quarterback selection, let's think through this. Where could we be going? Jay Sardo says Joe Flacco's elite. That is pretty funny, my friend. Okay, Alexander Madison, 126. Frymuth, 125. Cole Kmet off the board. What's the report on Galladay? We're probably going to take him, so I'm going to queue him up regardless. Okay, Galladay caught 1 of 3 targets for 6 yards in Thursdays, blah, blah, blah. Galladay and starting quarterback Daniel Jones failed to connect twice in the opening drive, including a 3rd and 6 from the New England 7-yard line. The veteran wide receiver finally got his hands on the ball to cap New York's second drive, gaining 6 yards on a 3rd and 18. Okay, so it doesn't sound like a great report, but we are going to go ahead. We are going to take Kenny Galladay. I think this is a wide receiver that should have his role locked in for the New York Giants, because if you look at Kadarius Toney versus Wan'Dale Robinson, they kind of look like, I don't want to say they're the same exact player, but they're both those super athletic, shifty wide receivers that are probably going to operate a little closer to the line of scrimmage, where Kenny Galladay doesn't look like anybody else on this New York Giants wide receiver core. He does have his role locked in to being that Alpha X. I don't know how good he's going to be, but he is going to be that Alpha X wide receiver for the New York Giants. And the other wide receivers in this range, someone like Michael Gallup. While I would really like Michael Gallup in that league that has the fantasy football playoffs, he's going to miss the beginning portion of the season, so he's a lot less appealing. That's why you ended up having DeAndre Hopkins fall to us at pick 89, because we do need to be devaluing those players. Okay, so now we have Tua Tagovailoa going off the board here, 132. I am surprised to see Tua going before Justin Fields. I know that this team has, I'm assuming, at least I really hope that they took Jalen Waddle there at the 3-4 turn if they're deciding to take Tua Tagovailoa here. But I still feel like, even if you don't have the correlation, Justin Fields is probably the play, just given the fact that he is someone that actually has rushing upside in this offense. George Pickens goes 134. Nick G says, damn, put some respect on Kadarius Toney. I like Kadarius Toney. I mean, he had the elite yards per route run metric, measure his rookie season. But at the end of the day, doesn't Wan'Dale look like he was probably going to be more in line with the Kadarius Toney prototype compared to what you're going to see with the Galladay? Not saying Galladay is better than Toney. There's a reason Galladay is going significantly behind him. I'm just saying I think his role safe in this offense. Okay, so if we're looking at the tight ends here, all these tight ends are about the same tier for me. This is where we begin looking at our tight ends in round 12. Let's go ahead. Let's take Irv Smith Jr. here. I mean, I think when we take Irv Smith Jr. and we combine him with Kyle Pitts, we're probably not going to be drafting a 3rd tight end. I would want to say we're definitely not drafting a 3rd tight end. So now we can focus in on just hammering in some more of those wide receivers, because our wide receiver core as it stands is going to be the combo of Deebo Samuel, Brandon Cooks, DeAndre Hopkins, Tyler Boyd, Kenny Galladay. We have the elite level tight end room with Kyle Pitts and Irv Smith Jr. We have the elite level quarterback, Jalen Hurts. We have some pretty good running backs with Derrick Henry, Travis Etienne, Miles Sanders, and Kenneth Walker. Just feel like this is a very balanced roster overall. Johnny said Travis Etienne's 9 for 20 something rushing looked very good. Yeah, I know that you had Travis Etienne out there on Twitter trending because he made some highlight runs. He definitely looked good at some spots. But at the end of the day, I don't want to go out of our way and overhype this. Like 100%, we need to be taking everything that we see in the preseason with a grain of salt. I think the preseason's very important in trying to determine usage for individual players, specifically depth charts that we are potentially going to see with secondary running backs in their offenses. But when it comes to someone that we already know is going to be having a large role on their team, like a Travis Etienne, like we already know who Etienne's going to be, it's almost like, oh, if he underperforms, let's use it as a buy low opportunity. If he overperforms, maybe his ADP gets steamed up where we can't draft him anymore. No. Andrew says, Mason, how do I use code FLOCK and Zach Wilson is good? Okay. Bad news for you, my man. Zach Wilson's not a great quarterback, but great news for you. You can use promo code FLOCK still on Underdog Fantasy. I'll send the link out in the live chat. It should be pinned to the top as well. But if you go over, sign up for Underdog Fantasy, use promo code FLOCK when you sign up. They'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. You'll get our 2022 fantasy football rankings. You will get our 2022 fantasy football draft guide. We literally just say $10 deposit that they'll match dollar for dollar up to $100 over there on Underdog Fantasy when you use promo code FLOCK. I just sent that link out there in the live chat. And of course, we're doing these drafts every single night. We're going to get in another draft after this one, another draft after that, another draft after that. You can join. But let's go ahead. Let's take Michael Carter here. I mean, with Michael Carter, yes, he is 100% going to be a running back that is phased out of this New York Jets offense as this season progresses. Breece Hall is going to be that bell cow player, but at the same time, Michael Carter should have a small role in that this will be a running back that is a very capable pass catcher. And at the beginning of the season, I'm a lot more excited about the role that he will have because we're not necessarily expecting Breece Hall to step in and be Jonathan Taylor right away. I mean, you're not necessarily expecting this to be a split that you had with like a Melvin Gordon and a Javonte Williams last year, but I do think that they probably share the backfield for the beginning portion of the season, maybe about the first month until Breece Hall fully takes over as that elite level bell cow running back. But like I said, this is not that league where we're optimizing for weeks 15, 16, 17 for the fantasy football playoffs. There are no fantasy football playoffs. Points in week 1 matter just as much as points in week 17. So I do like Carter in this format, even though I know everybody after today is going to be screaming, go Romeo Dubs, go Romeo Dubs, go Romeo Dubs. I get it. I know you want it. I'm not doing it. Okay. So let's move this over. Thrive says, are your rankings PPR? Yes. So if you go through and if you look at the draft guide that you get sent from Underdog Fantasy when you use promo code FLOCK, those rankings are PPR rankings. Underdogs have PPR, but that draft guide and those rankings are not rankings for Underdog. It's not a draft guide for Underdog. It's just a draft guide and rankings for your individual fantasy football league. Okay, so now this team right before us has 1 quarterback and 0 tight ends. So I'm assuming they go ahead and they take one of those positions. So yeah, let's take Isaiah McKenzie. I mean, I actually probably prefer getting the discount with Jamison Crowder in a few rounds, betting that Jamison Crowder ends up with the slot job. I think it is up in the air for the time being. But at the end of the day, the reason that you have to be paying attention to the situation closely is because whoever wins the slot job in Buffalo, that's going to be a very important role. That's going to be a role that if you look at the targets that you were able to see from Cole Beasley last season, like points are going to be scored. You're getting triple-digit targets from Josh freaking Allen. Dre says, are you still drafting Elijah Moore after the Zach Wilson news? I think it's going to be such a delicate situation. I would move down these players given the uncertainty that we have with the situation. But at the end of the day, if this team were to trade for Jimmy Garoppolo, if that were to happen, it's an upgrade. I don't want to say that it's going to be an upgrade for the long term. Of course, I can't say that. But for 2022 in particular, I would assume that you end up getting that upgrade from Zach Wilson to Jimmy G. Now, of course, we don't know if it's going to be Joe Flacco. We don't know if it's still going to be Zach Wilson. Like, there's so much uncertainty as it stands. So I would personally be pushing down Garrett Wilson. I'd be pushing down Elijah Moore. You just can't go overboard when you're doing it. You definitely can't be going overboard. So let's move this over. D-Lane says, weren't Elijah Moore's best games last year with Mike White anyway? Yeah, but that was such a small sample that you can't hold on to that. Like, that was such a small sample that it's not even fair bringing up. I mean, I'd be sitting here saying, well, you know what? Maybe from a raw points per game perspective, between Mike White and Zach Wilson last year, Mike White was the better quarterback. But in reality, who was going to have the upside to make this an above average offense overall? Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco, Mike White. Who was going to have the upside for this upcoming season to make this an above average offense? The only person that had the upside was Zach Wilson. The only guy. So, I don't know. If they don't make a play for Jimmy Garoppolo, it's definitely a bad thing. Steven says, where do you draft Joe Flacco? You don't draft Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco should be on the waiver wire in every single league. But real quick, guys, if you have not done so already, please go down there. Drop a like on this live stream. We are 25 likes away from firing up another draft after this one. Hopefully that draft that we fire up after this one ends up being a $250 draft. That would be pretty damn fun. But let me know what you want in the live chat. So what I'll probably do is if this live stream does hit 500 likes, we are going to go ahead. We are going to go into the Underdog $250 draft lobby, see how many teams are currently sitting there, see if that's close to filling. And if it is close to filling, we are going to draft there. If it's not, I'll probably create another private draft that you can just log in and draft with us. And that link will be sent out in the live chat. Okay. So now we have Daniel Jones off the board, 176. I mean, with Daniel Jones here, super easy selection. This is a quarterback that we took Kenny Golladay with earlier. So we are getting that built-in correlation with this New York Giants offense. At the same time, I really like Daniel Jones in that you are getting some of the cheapest rushing upside in fantasy football with Daniel Jones at 176. I'm not prioritizing Deshaun Watson in this league because very similar to why we needed to push down DeAndre Hopkins past his ADP. Hell, cumulative scoring. We don't have fantasy football playoffs. We've said this a million times by now. I think y'all should know, y'all understand. So for that reason, we're not dying to draft Deshaun Watson here. I'm completely fine with this Daniel Jones pick. Let's move this over. Boston Ass coming out. Thank you, my man says, I was just offered Jalen Waddle and Saquon Barkley for Travis Kelce and Breece Hall in a half PPR format. Do I take the deal? From a dynasty perspective, I'd say yes. From a redraft perspective, I probably say no unless you're playing in a league where you can start up to, say, 4 wide receivers. Like if you have multiple flex spots in your league and it's a 12-team format, their tight end, in my opinion, is not going to be as valuable. And I would go ahead and I'd probably just take what you're getting with Jalen Waddle and Saquon Barkley. But assuming it's a shallow redraft league, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to get the elite level tight end with Kelce. Okay, so I think at this point, we want to be drafting 3 quarterbacks when we waited this long to take Daniel Jones as our second guy. We are just going to go ahead. We're going to lock in Mac Jones here. We don't have any correlation with this New England Patriots offense as of now, but we could get there just given the fact that, hell, we can take Kendrick Bourne in the next round. We can go through. We can take Tyquan Thornton at the very end. And we also have to remember that one of those quarterbacks that was draftable in Zach Wilson is now no longer an option. So I think the probability that we end up getting a quarterback that we would have liked on the way back around is now going to be lower. So let's go ahead and let's make that pick while we still can. Let's grab another quarterback while we still can. And you know what? I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to log into the $250 draft room. We can finish that other draft on our phone. We just have to draft 2 more wide receivers. And yeah, we just got in that $250 draft and it is filled. Ladies and gentlemen, a $250 draft. We're sitting in here at pick 2. There's some heavy hitters. There are a lot of names that we recognize in here. We got the Bears in here. Scorpion in here is a name I recognize. LOL Hot Dogs, I think, has been in every single $250 draft. CSU Ram, obviously. OMG. There are some heavy hitters in this draft. We are definitely the donkey in this draft room. I am the fish right now. We are swimming with the sharks. Let's see if we can stay afloat. Let's see if we can put up a respectable finish. I'm assuming we're going CMC or Jonathan Taylor at 1. CMC or JT at 1. Lock it in, and we'll see what we get from there. But buckle up, guys. It's going to be an exciting draft. Very exciting. Kobe Short says, you got to risk it again in the 250. Yeah, guys. In the 250, if you don't know, we had a beautiful draft 2 days ago. Like 2 days ago in the $250 draft, I had one of my favorite teams ever. But we got in one yesterday, and we got boxed out of the quarterback position where, dear God, no. I think we drafted Zach Wilson there. Let me go and double check. But I think in the $250 draft, we had to draft Zach Wilson in the last one. Oh, my God, please. I'm praying to God. I'm misremembering. Please. Okay, I'm trying to find this right now. Did we draft Zach Wilson in that league? Okay, we are on the clock. We are going to get Christian McCaffrey. CMC is going to be the easy pick here at 2. I mean, with CMC, yes, obviously, you are inherently going to have a lot of risk with this pick, but at the same time, you do have a lot of upside. So I think it is going to make a lot of sense for us to just go ahead and we are going to take him. I mean, this is going to be a tournament draft at the end of the day. So we are trying to find that highest ceiling that we possibly can. I apologize. Right now, I'm having to go through. I'm having to queue up some wide receivers that for that other draft we were in. And I am stressing out. I want to make sure that we didn't draft Zach Wilson in another $250 draft. We did. So I only had, I think 6, what did I say earlier? 6% Zach Wilson in all our drafts. Let me see, sorted by entry fees, what ranked quarterback he was for me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. He was 11th by entry fees. That is brutal for us. Real brutal. But regardless, we're not having to be put in that situation in this draft. This will be a better one. So after we take CMC at 2, you have Derrick Henry going up at pick 4 in this $250 draft. Very rarely are you going to see Austin Eckler fall this far or Stephon Diggs fall this far. Very interesting to see a couple off-the-wall picks here. Devontae Adams goes at 10. Let's see what CSU Ram decides to do here at 11. Ignite says, what about the Drake London injury news? So as it stands with Drake London, it looks like this is going to be a wide receiver that doesn't have that serious injury that you have to worry about at this time. But we are going to get more updates tomorrow, the next day. So we're just going to have to monitor over the next couple days. But it doesn't look nearly as serious as the Zach Wilson injury. And real quick, guys, if you have not done so already, if you want to get into some real money fantasy football drafts with us, go to the link in the live chat. Go to the link in the description of the video. Go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code FLOCK when you sign up for Underdog Fantasy, and they'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. You will get our 2022 fantasy football rankings. You will get our 2022 fantasy football draft guide with literally just a $10 deposit on Underdog Fantasy. You are going to get a 300-page 2022 fantasy football draft guide from us, and you get to have some fun with us and draft in the live stream. We're not just drafting these $250 drafts. We do get a lot of cheap drafts in. That way y'all can get in as well. Like the past 2 drafts we did were $3 drafts. This is really going to be the only high stakes draft we have on this live stream tonight. But CSU Ram, I don't know if they auto drafted Kelsey in the first, but they did take it all the way down to the end of the timer. So they're doing the same thing here, and they go Deebo Samuel here at 14, which we can 100% confirm that's not an auto pick. I mean, the auto pick would be Najee Harris at this selection. So maybe we need to worry about teams deciding to push up wide receivers in this draft. And dear God, a team goes Josh Allen in the second round to make sure that they get their stack with Stephon Diggs. In a $250 draft, someone goes Josh Allen in the second. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, this is going to be beautiful. And now we are going to get some strong value. This team is going to be able to pair up Austin Eckler and Najee Harris if they actually no, Najee went at 15. They're going to get Eckler and Barkley if they want. Yeah, they go Eckler, Barkley. This team at pick 7 decided to go Dalvin Cook in the first. Let's see what they decide to do at this point. We're hoping that we see someone else reach on a player, really just driving down a ton of value for us. They go DeAndre Swift, very standard pick to pair up with Dalvin Cook there, 7 and 18. This team, Jamar Chase, they got lucky enough to have him fall to them at pick 6. Let's see where they decide to go now. Oh, Caesar says, is this the $250 draft? Yes, this is the $250 draft, guys. If you have not done so already, drop that like, subscribe to the channel. I think it's an exciting draft with the context that we're seeing Allen go here at 16. I think that this could throw some of these picks off, and we can end up getting a value that we really like. So at this point, Aaron Jones has made it down to pick 20. I'm assuming Aaron Jones, yeah, goes with the next pick. Let's see what we're going to come away with at 23. I'm afraid of going hyper fragile because I would be very afraid of all of a sudden everybody punting running back. But I don't know if we're going to have an option. No, thank God. We get Mike Evans here. Pairing up Mike Evans and CMC. I really like this selection. There is uncertainty in Tampa right now that does worry me some with Mike Evans. But no, getting Mike Evans here at 23 is going to be a no-brainer. No-brainer selection. And now I'm not too worried about taking another running back here at the beginning of the third round. I mean, hell, if we get Leonard Fournette and we get some of that Tampa Bay Buccaneers correlation, I'm going to be fine with it. I was going to be very worried if we were put in a spot where we maybe had to go like Javonte Williams and Leonard Fournette and start 3 running backs in a row in a draft room that maybe is not going to value the running back position. But this team goes Leonard Fournette at pick 24. Let's see if they go with the hyper-fragile build and they decide to take Javonte. No, they don't. So we are going to get Javonte Williams in the third round. Guys, this is a very exciting start to a $250 draft. I think the amount of teams that are going to have the combination of CMC, Mike Williams, and Javonte Williams. I'm sorry, Mike Evans and Javonte Williams. Very, very small. This specific trio of players. I am very excited about this. I want to see where these running backs go here at the end of the third. I want to see how far does Travis Etienne fall? How far does James Conner fall? Because I think that's going to be very telling of what to come to expect in the later rounds of this draft. Okay. Guys, this is very exciting. Ed says, will you be updating your rankings? So yes, if we have that Zach Wilson injury confirmed torn ACL, we will update our rankings. We will 100% get those updated, of course. I don't think we need to have too many updates unless we get a Jimmy Garoppolo trade over there for the New York Jets, where that, yes, will end up swinging a decent amount. But as it stands, I don't think we need to be panicking and making any updates to the rankings until we have official news. Okay, so let's see. Mike Williams goes 29 here. A little early for Mike Williams. I mean, I personally am not drafting him here, but I know a lot of other people are. DJ Moore goes 30. So it looks like Kyle Pitts falling. Okay, this team at 31, going with the hyper-fragile build, they themselves decide to draft Travis Etienne at 31. If we knew that they were going to want to monopolize the first 3 running backs to the first 3 rounds, what I probably would have done is maybe if we wanted to play into this and really try to create just a little bit of a skewed running back value in this draft, we could have gone with the combo of Javonte Williams and Nick Chubb. They're at the 2-3 turn, but we didn't know exactly what was going to happen. I mean, here this team at 32 decides to go Kyle Pitts. Love the Kyle Pitts pick. I mean, if we didn't have a value that we liked fall to us there at 26 with Javonte, we would have taken Kyle Pitts, especially with the uncertainty that you would have surrounding that injury to Drake London. I think as of now, it's not going to be a big deal. But yeah, Keenan Allen, 34, CSU Ram taking Jalen Waddle, 35. Makes me feel a little bit better about my Jalen Waddle love. So let's see, OMG here on the turn. I believe Connor's still available. Yeah, James Connor's still available. Probably the highest on ADP. No, Courtland Sutton, the highest on ADP. So CSU Ram taking Jalen Waddle over Courtland Sutton. Hell, I mean, I guess like any smart person would do. But James Conner, Hollywood, and then Sutton makes it to the beginning of the 4th round in this $250 draft. Interesting, interesting. Jay says, will you do another 250 night? Probably not, my friends. Let me see how many drafts are still open in this contest on Underdog. Yeah, it's only 17% filled right now, so probably going to save some more entries for other nights. I can't be firing up multiple $250 drafts every night, my friend. I wish I could. Allen Robinson goes 39. So you do have a couple teams here at the very end deciding to go lean running back. I don't want to call it a 0 running back approach. I mean, I feel like I don't know. I don't want to speak too much. Ezekiel Elliott goes pick 40. See if Breece Hall falls to us with the injury that you have for Zach Wilson. Terry McLaurin off the board. The team that decided to go 3 running backs out the gate then takes Patrick Mahomes in the 4th round. Very interesting here. Okay, I have a plan at the 4-5 turn. We're really hoping that we get Gabriel Davis off the board. Why does Underdog change all these names? Changing it to Gabe Davis now. Justin Herbert off. Okay, so that does change our plan. We were going to go ahead. We were going to grab an elite level quarterback at pick 47. And now that's no longer going to be in the cards for us. Gabriel Davis off 43. Hell yes, we're going to get one of Breece Hall, Jerry Jeudy. That's what we were hoping for. We really wanted Gabriel Davis gone. I really did not want to have to deal with that nonsense. Get Gabriel Davis off the board. Okay, guys, we do not know right now. We do not know if you have an entire season-long injury for Zach Wilson. We don't know who the starting quarterback for the New York Jets is going to be. But what I do know is Breece Hall is a goddamn man. Breece Hall is a fantastic running back. I'll be completely fine taking him at pick 47, almost regardless of what's going on with Zach Wilson. Oh, this is tough. This is tough. Juju 48. Good. Juju was not a player that we were looking at. We are either going to get Deontay Johnson or Darren Waller here. Let's see what this team, Scorpion, decides to do. I'm assuming they could actually go with Cam Akers now that Deontay has the hip injury and you have Darren Waller with the hamstring issue. But yeah, let's go ahead. Let's take Deontay Johnson here at the beginning of the 5th round as our second wide receiver. I really like this start so far, guys. I mean, looking at this team, I think we are put in a very nice situation. At running back, Christian McCaffrey, Javonte Williams, Breece Hall. At wide receiver, the combo of Mike Evans and Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson continues to be a wide receiver that I put way too much money into. Way too much money. Steven says, wow, Bucks, Rams, and Jets all in potential trouble. Okay, my friend. I would love for you to elaborate on that. Derek says, are you maxed out on Best Ball Mania? Yes, I've already maxed out Best Ball Mania. I maxed out Best Ball Mania before we got to Deshaun Watson suspension news. Ed wanted us to take Darren Waller. I would have taken Darren Waller or Deontay Johnson, whoever fell. Those were my two guys. Those were our two guys. I mean, I'm not taking Kittle here. I mean, Kittle, you can sometimes get at like the 5-6 turn. I think taking Kittle would be a little bit aggressive. So that team that took Lamar Jackson, pick 43, is now going to be getting Rashad Bateman. The team that ended up going Justin Herbert already had Mike Williams, so I guess that makes sense. I just don't know why that Patrick Mahomes team decides to take Mahomes at pick 42, considering the fact that in a lot of these drafts, you are able to go out of your way, and you're able to get Patrick Mahomes in the middle of the 5th round. That's the reason that Patrick Mahomes is my most drafted quarterback in underdog drafts in particular, because you do get Patrick Mahomes in the middle of the 5th round a ton. JN says, Mason, do I do 5 Best Ball Mania drafts or a single big dog? JN, 10 Best Ball Mania drafts is equivalent to a single big dog. What I would recommend for anybody in this is I would recommend you do Best Ball Mania over the big dog drafts. Of course, I would recommend the puppy drafts first and foremost because, in my opinion, how we should be playing on Underdog Fantasy is for fun. I think we should be playing for fun and for practice in our other fantasy football drafts. So you're going to get the same amount of fun, the same amount of practice from like a $5, $25 draft versus a $250 draft. So if you're able to get into, say, 10 $25 drafts for the same price as one $250 draft, I'd probably recommend the 10 $250 drafts. You're going to get way more practice from that. Okay. Now we have Kyler DK Metcalf off the board. So CSU Ram also decides to go Amari Cooper, pick 62. Very interesting. A lot of players I've taken. And David Montgomery, pick 59. Another player that we've taken. Okay, we have half the people in the chat right now saying, oh, Zach Wilson's fine. He's walking around after the game. And the other half the people in the chat going, oh, Zach Wilson tore an ACL. Guys, let's calm down. There's not much we can do about it right now. There's not much. We can sit here and we can wait. We can see what official reports we get later on. But the question is, if we're on the clock 71 and Drake London's sitting there, do we take Drake London? That's the real question we need to ask ourselves. Okay, LOL Hot Dogs on the clock. They decide to go Jalen Hurts. That sucks that we were going to go 3 drafts straight getting our guy Jalen Hurts. London goes 66, so it doesn't even matter if we wanted to take Drake London. It wouldn't have been a possibility. The Bears on the clock. They have not taken a running back so far. This is a team that decided to go ahead and to reach on Lamar. Actually, they have the double stack of Lamar Jackson, Rashad Bateman, and Mark Andrews. They also have Jamar Chase and DJ Moore. See, what's the report on Elijah Mitchell? Okay, unlikely to play in the preseason. Expected to be ready week 1 with a hamstring injury. Okay, we don't have to worry about the headache of trying to determine if we need to go ahead and draft him because he's already off the board. Okay, good. And if Elijah Moore falls to us, I think we end up having to take Elijah Moore because we already made the bet with Breece Hall, with this team, that maybe this New York Jets situation gets figured out. So we could get the discount on Elijah Moore. It could end up being a very correct decision if they make a play for Jimmy Garoppolo, because then we would benefit twice from the combo of Breece Hall and Elijah Moore being on the same roster. Wilson off the board 70. I'll sit here and think. You know what we're going to do, guys? Oh, dear God. It's a sign. He had his day-to-day. Y'all know how much I love him. Y'all know how much I love our guy. We're going Trey Lance here, 71. I am worried looking across the board of how all these people in this league are pushing up the quarterback position. You had Lamar going a full round before his ADP. Mahomes going a full round before his ADP. You had at the same time Russell Wilson going a full round before his ADP. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to get Lance. And if we're looking at the combo of Elijah Moore, Adam Thielen, and Ayuk all available to us at pick 74, I know most people are going to be screaming, go Ayuk, go get the correlation with Trey Lance, yada, yada, yada. Trust me, I hear you. I hear you screaming at me. But at the same time, what I would say is with Lance, I'm fine not having correlation given the fact that we are betting on him for his rushing upside, not necessarily passing volume. But I will still throw it to y'all. What do you want to see? Elijah Moore or Brandon Ayuk here? We have Breece Hall, so we're somewhat already betting that the New York Jets are possibly going to be able to fix this situation. Let me know. What do you think? What do you think? Ignite says Moore 100%. Most people are saying Elijah Moore. Okay, most people are saying Elijah Moore. So now everybody's saying Ayuk. Oh my God, guys. We had the first 5 people say Elijah Moore, and then directly after that, we had 20 messages saying Brandon Ayuk. Well, regardless, we are going Elijah Moore. We are going to be probably one of the only teams here who gets Elijah Moore in the 7th round. If we did not have Breece Hall, I think it would be an easy bet to just go ahead and take Ayuk, get that correlation in there with Trey Lance. Ayuk now falls to pick 78. My explanation with Elijah Moore is we already know that a lot of teams in this contest have drafted Elijah Moore at the beginning of the 6th round, the middle of the 6th round, so very few teams are going to be able to get this kind of value on him. We drafted Breece Hall, and I do think that if this team makes a play for Jimmy Garoppolo, if the Jets make that play for Jimmy G, that both Elijah Moore and Breece Hall benefit, and both of their price points goes up at the same time. So I'm unsure. I can't say that was 100% the correct decision. I don't know. That's why I wanted to toss it to you. I think that you could make a strong argument for either side. I think a lot of smart people would say, Mason, you took Lance in the 6th. You have to get the correlation with Ayuk in the 7th, especially knowing that there's nobody else in San Francisco that I want to draft at this point. But Lance is one of those few quarterbacks I'm fine not stacking because his rushing upside can get him there without one of the pass catchers going off. But Tony, Hunter Renfrow, Treylon Burks here going all at the turn. So Tony falling pretty far down his ADP. I don't even know what to expect with what we're going to have at the 8-9 turn. So far at running back, we have some pretty good guys with CMC, Javonte Williams, Breece Hall. At wide receiver, we have Mike Evans, Deontay Johnson, Elijah Moore. And of course, in my opinion, we have the elite level quarterback in Trey Lance. I haven't been taking a ton of 6th round Trey Lance. And actually, I will say on the record, this is the first draft that I have drafted Trey Lance in the 6th round in. Like, I have not drafted Lance here really at all. But the issue is, looking at this draft board, I was just so worried that maybe I'm overreacting, but that last $250 draft that we got in, where we got burnt at the quarterback position, where we got boxed out of the position, that possibly was going to happen again. So Sky Moore, Chris Olave, Chase Claypool all going off the board really early for Claypool, but this team clearly is not worried about going out there and getting their guys. I mean, they reached on Allen there in the 2nd round. So Claypool does have an ADP where 9 times out of 10, you can get Chase Claypool if you wanted in the 9th round there. So I'm not going to complain. I wasn't looking for Chase Claypool at the 8-9 turn. Let's see what these teams on the clock do. They go Ramondre Stevenson, pick 91. In my opinion, there's a tier 3, guys. I don't want to speak. I don't want to speak. Let's keep our lips shut. I don't know if anybody here is watching the live stream. I don't know if anybody is. Pollard 92. Tater salad on the clock. They have Burrow, Henry, Tyreek, Higgins, Gabriel Davis, Brandon Cooks, Dalton Schultz. It looks like an expert draft, if I'm going to be honest. Outside of the Derrick Henry selection at 4. They go Damian Harris 93. Never mind. They just threw it out the window. I think we are going to get a player that we like. Hell yes. Hell yes, ladies and gentlemen. This team on the clock. They go Marquez Valdez-Scantling. So we're going to get Dak Prescott. We are going to double dip the elite level quarterbacks in a best ball format. We are not going to draft another quarterback. I can already hear you in the comment section saying, oh, Mason, don't you know both your quarterbacks had the same bye? Yes, I know they had the same bye. I'll sacrifice the 25 points that one individual week. 4 teams here are going to make the playoffs. 4 teams are going to advance to that best ball tournament. I think that Lance and Dak are going to be a very unique combination. This is a no-brainer selection, in my opinion. A no-brainer pick. And we possibly are going to get, we're going to get another guy that we really like here in either Chase Edmonds or Kareem Hunt. Spam the chat right now. If this team takes one of these guys, we're just going to get the other one. But if you have a preference between Edmonds or Kareem Hunt, let me know right now in the live chat. Please let me know ASAP. Rashad Penny goes, so we're going to get one of our guys. Spam the chat. Who do you want between these guys? Okay, so we have Edmonds, Hunt, Edmonds, Hunt. Edmonds, Edmonds, Edmonds. Edmonds, 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 Hunt, Hunt, Edmonds, Edmonds, Hunt. It sounds like more people saying Chase Edmonds. Edmonds does have the higher ADP, so I think it is going to be a more unique combo. So let's go ahead. Let's take Chase Edmonds, pick 98. Maybe I'd go Kareem Hunt if we thought we were going to get another quarterback. We thought that quarterback was going to be potentially a Deshaun Watson in the 15th round like we've taken in a lot of these tournament drafts. But now that we have the combo of Trey Lance and Dak Prescott, we are definitely going to be done drafting these quarterbacks. So I'm completely fine getting Chase Edmonds as a running back 4 here. And I actually love this team, guys. And with Dak Prescott, we're going to have a ton of different opportunities to go through and bring in some correlation with this Dallas Cowboys offense. Now, it's going to get awkward in determining where exactly we need to draft Michael Gallup, because if I'm remembering off the top of my head, I think that you have Michael Gallup as the wide receiver, a wide receiver going at pick 133. And if you look at ADP of 133, it's on the other side of the draft board. We'll figure it out when we get there. Dylan says, can I play underdog in California? Yeah, guys, you can play underdog in almost any state. The states you cannot play underdog in: Washington, Michigan, Louisiana, Nevada, because they have Vegas. And maybe that's about it. Like, I lived in Florida last year, and you don't have sports betting in Florida, but you have underdog. Same thing. I live in Texas this year. You don't have sports betting in Texas, but you have underdog. So you can play underdog almost anywhere in the United States. You can play in Canada anywhere but Ontario. Make sure you go to the link in the description, the link in the live chat. Go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code FLOCK when you sign up. They'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. You'll get our 2022 fantasy football rankings, our 2022 fantasy football draft guide with literally just a $10 deposit. And most importantly, you can have a ton of fun drafting with us in the live stream. But interested to see where CSU Ram decides to go. He goes Cordell Patterson, 107, as his second running back to pair up with David Montgomery. Andrew says, how old do you have to be to do underdog with the flock mate? So you have to be 18 years old for underdog. You have to be 18 for underdog. Okay, so Derek Carr goes 105, Tyler Boyd 109. Obviously, when we have Lance and Dak, we're really hoping that we see more quarterbacks off the board. Like, get these quarterbacks off. I want nothing to do with them. Let's see Aaron Rodgers go. Let's see Kirk Cousins go. Devin Singletary off the board here, 110. Okay, let's slide this down. Maybe we just go all in betting that the New York Jets end up getting Jimmy Garoppolo coming over, and we take Garrett Wilson if Garrett Wilson falls here at the very end of the 10th round. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. I don't want to speak too soon, but we really need to hope that the combination of Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins go off the board soon. Okay, Ben says, oh yeah, I forgot. Washington is another state you can't play underdog. I knew I was missing like one or two. I think like one of the super small states, like north, like Montana or something you can't. I don't know. One of those super, super small states. Jeff says, Mason, are you posting the link to your next draft after this? A like has been dropped in this video. Yeah, if we get 700 likes on the next draft, on the live stream, we will fire up the next draft, which will be our 4th draft on the stream. So if you have not done so already, please go down there, drop a like in the live stream. Of course, it supports us so much. But Jalen Tolbert off the board here. So if we want to bring in a wide receiver to play with Dak Prescott, we are going to have to go out of our way. We are going to have to draft we are going to have to draft Michael Gallup probably at the beginning of the 11th round. Jay says, who was your first pick in this draft? Christian McCaffrey was our first pick in this draft. Russell Gage off the board, 115. I'm assuming this team on the clock, they can't take a quarterback. They can't take Rodgers. They took Rodgers. They already had Herbert, Matthew Stafford. Oh my gosh, guys, this is great. This is great for us. If I was anybody else in this draft, I'd be fuming if I didn't have 2 quarterbacks as is. Taking Rodgers is just throwing that pick in the trash. Like, oh dear God. But now that's going to skew the entire board when it comes to these quarterbacks. I don't love Zach Ertz. We're getting Zach Ertz 11 picks behind his ADP. We don't have a single tight end in this draft. So let's go ahead. Let's take Zach Ertz here, and then we're going to get Michael Gallup on the way back around to pair up with Dak. Oh, guys, this is great. This is a $250 draft, and I could not be more excited about this so far. And we're just going to queue up Michael Gallup here. Yeah, Kirk Cousins goes 120. I would be panicking grabbing these quarterbacks as well. And I'm saying this selfishly because obviously I don't need a quarterback when we have Trey Lance and Dak Prescott. But seeing that team go through and draft 3 of them, knowing that Zach Wilson's now undraftable, there's an extra quarterback out of the player pool. I think we see these quarterbacks across the board slide up drafts. And we're going to go ahead. We're going to take Michael Gallup here. I know Michael Gallup's going to miss the beginning portion of the season, but if you're looking at the fact that only you need a top 4 finish in this league to go to the fantasy football playoff tournament weeks 15, 16, 17. In my opinion, when we have Dak Prescott, Michael Gallup's going to be an easy selection in round 11 because this is going to be someone that has that elite level ceiling. So I would have really liked the combo of Garrett Wilson and Michael Gallup here at the turn instead of Zach Wilson and Michael Gallup. But regardless, I am very excited about this draft. Very excited. Andrew says, turn 18 tomorrow. Can't wait to join the drafts. Super happy to have you in the drafts tomorrow. You know, we're going to continue to live stream every single night for you, my man. And I will fire up a bunch of like $3 private drafts. So if you're new on Underdog, you'll be able to just go through, get acclimated. I mean, if you deposit, say, $10 on Underdog, you have 20 in your account. You can join 6 $3 drafts with us, my friend. Okay, so we have Joshua Palmer off the board here, 126. Now, what I'm interested in is, if you all don't know, CSU Ram is like probably the best drafter. Like, he is way, way, way better at drafting than I am. I want to see how he is going to navigate this now that you have that one team with 3 quarterbacks and no Zach Wilson in the player pool. Because as it stands, that team at 11 has not taken a quarterback yet in this draft. They have Kelsey at tight end, Debo, Waddle, Sutton, Amari, Kadarius Toney, Treylon Burks at wide receiver. And at running back, they have David Montgomery, Cordell Patterson, and Devin Singletary. So I'm interested to see how they navigate this draft board here. You have Kenny Golladay going off the board at 128. Matt Ryan, 129. What is going on? What is going on? Trick says, would you send a 2023 first for Zach Wilson? No, I wouldn't have done that before the injury. I'm not doing that now. Daryl Henderson off the board, 130. Let's see if CSU Ram, I'm assuming he goes Tua. He has Waddle. Tua is still available. Yeah, so he goes Alexander Madison. I think the team here at the turn, OMG, already has 2 quarterbacks. I don't know if they can take another. So I'm assuming he probably gets 2 on the way back around at 134. If not, hell, like I said, he's a smarter drafter than I am. I'm just interested to continue to watch his draft and see what he does. Daniel says, is there a tool to help you draft players and remove them as you're drafting them? My friend, whatever drafting platform you're on, you should be able to, should automatically remove the player once they're drafted from the player pool. That should automatically be done. Yeah, he goes to attack Tagovailoa, pick 134 to there, pair up with Jalen Waddle. DJ Chark off the board, 133. Cole Kmet, 132. Let's scroll this over. Selfishly, of course, we're wanting to see more quarterbacks off the board. I mean, we probably only want one more running back when we already have Christian McCaffrey, Javonte Williams, Breece Hall, Chase Edmonds at RB. Like, we're already strong at the running back position. I would assume that this is going to be a team where we draft 2 quarterbacks, probably about 5 running backs, and then either 9 wide receivers and 2 tight ends, or 8 wide receivers and 3 tight ends, depending on the tight end versus wide receiver value that we find later on in this draft. So Jahan Dotson off the board at pick 136. Pat Frymuth, 137. Frymuth would have been 100% a player I would have selected if he fell to us. What's the report that you're getting with Kenneth Gainwell today? Not expected to play. Let's see why this. Okay, dealing with hip injury. Okay, yeah, I don't think you need Kenneth Gainwell out there playing regardless. Okay, so let's see exactly what we're getting. I mean, really the only quarterback that you should expect to come off the board anytime soon would be Trevor Lawrence. But imagine if this Marshall team here just continues to light his $250 on fire and drafts another QB. Sometimes there'll be these crazy drafters in here. No, he goes Robert Tonyan. Still a weird-ass pick. Like, you're taking Robert Tonyan 30 picks before his ADP. George Pickens, 141. Okay, so I think that we're going to go ahead. We're probably going to take Jacoby Myers here. Yeah, that's what we said. We were taking Jacoby Myers. I honestly wasn't dying to have Nyheim Hines in this roster. I don't necessarily know exactly what Hines brings in. Jacoby Myers, which is going to get a crap ton of wide receiver targets, which we definitely need if we're especially looking at this roster in the light that we're not going to have Michael Gallup for the beginning portion of the season. And then after this, 146. What was the James Robinson report? Won't play. Torn Achilles, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, that's expected. Okay, so now what are we getting from Scorpion? I'm debating if we go with James Robinson here or Mike Gesicki. We could even end up going with Hunter Henry, now that we took Jacoby Myers here at the turn. So we could get some pseudo correlation in there with this New England Patriots passing offense. Let me know, what do y'all do between these three players? Spam the chat ASAP. ASAP, I know there's a little bit of a lag here, but I'm going to try to get your overall temperature or try to figure it out. We have Zach Ertz at tight end. At running back, we have CMC, Javonte Williams, Breece Hall, Chase Edmonds. I don't love the wide receivers in this range, if I'm going to be completely honest. Okay, it looks like most people are saying James Robinson. Let's go ahead. Let's take James Robinson as our fifth running back. Once we take James Robinson as our fifth running back here, we are probably just going to be done grabbing running back. Yeah, it looks like we had a lot of different votes for a lot of different players, but I think James Robinson was the majority of the messages. It's hard to tell, But now that we pass on tight end as well, we are going to be put in a position that we are definitely going to be coming away with 3 tight ends in this draft. It'll be nice if we can, say, get a Noah Fant and a Tyler Higbee on the turn. We're no longer going to be able to get Robert Tonyan in that range because this team was crazy and took him at pick 140. But it looks like that's just a Packers fan because they got Aaron Jones in the second round. They go ahead, they take Aaron Rodgers as a third quarterback and then reach on Tonyan and now take Romeo Doubs. Okay. So real quick, guys, if y'all have not done so already, please go down there, drop that like on the live stream. If we hit 700 likes, we are going to fire up another draft. The next draft we will do, not going to be a high stakes draft. The next one I'll do is just going to be a private draft where I'll send out the link in the live chat so you can join directly from there. It'll just be like a cheap $3, $5 draft just for some practice and some fun. But Jarvis Landry goes pick 150. I'm not that interested in taking Jarvis Landry in this range. Like, Jarvis was the best wide receiver according to ADP when we were on the clock. But even if I was going to take a wide receiver, Jarvis wouldn't have been the guy that I took. Okay. So we have David Njoku off the board, 151. That does suck because we're going to need to add a couple more tight ends to this team. Jameis Winston off the board, 152. That's going to help us, obviously, when we are no longer in the quarterback market. This team goes Isaiah McKenzie at 153. That's the team that decided to reach on Josh Allen in the second round earlier on this draft. Michael Carter, 154. Okay. Gesicki. Yeah, CSU Ram getting, I don't want to say lucky, but obviously making the right call there. Getting the double stack with Tua Tagovailoa, Jalen Waddle, and Mike Gesicki at a massive value. I mean, to come away with Gesicki is a no-brainer pick. That was the selection that we were considering at the beginning of the 13th, and we didn't even have Tua Tagovailoa to go with that team. Okay, it looks like a lot of people are saying Eno Benjamin is the guy that you want in Arizona. I have heard ton of reports coming out of training camp that Eno Benjamin's the second guy. Now, I don't necessarily know how reliable that is. It'll be something that we need to continue to monitor, definitely, because figuring out the second running back in Arizona is going to be a very important job. Like, you are going to get touches on a week-to-week basis, one of the best offenses in the NFL. And, of course, you do have to be somewhat concerned with the injuries that you could see from James Conner. So Gerald Everett off the board here, 159. Nico Collins, 160. Let's scroll this up. So we are not looking at quarterback. We're not looking at running back. I will be very disappointed in our James Robinson selection if Khalil Herbert does end up making it back to us here at the end of the 14th round. Or maybe even a Jamal Williams for that instance. Jameson Williams off the board, 161. That was the guy, of course, that we were wanting. Wandale off the board, crap. So maybe the play was wide receiver in the last round. I think it's too early to tell. I think there are a couple interesting names we could still be looking at. The Bears already has 8 wide receivers. I don't think they can take another one. If they take another one, I feel like they're lighting their buying on fire. They take Jamal Williams instead. Tyler Higbee goes 164. Crap, guys. This is not great. Van Jefferson off. Van Jefferson was going to be the wide receiver we were looking at. Herbert about to make it to 167, and we can't even take him. And Noah Fant is off. If you spam the chat, James Robinson, whenever I asked, this is on you. This is on you, not me. It's not my responsibility. I'm not living with this. This is on you. We take Marvin Jones here. Reach on Marvin Jones. What the hell am I supposed to do, guys? We were just put into a horrible situation. We have to go ahead. We have to take Marvin Jones, and I don't even know what we do after this. Dear God. Dear God. Daniel Jones goes 168. Okay, so I'm trying to sit here and think. Herbert off the board. I'm not a big Campbell guy. I'm not a big Paris Campbell fan. Hayden Hurst, that tight end's about the same as some of these other tight ends that we're going to be looking at later on. I have no idea what to do here. I'm going to throw my hands up. We'll take Paris. I don't love it. I don't love it. What are we supposed to do, though? I feel like we have to take a wide receiver. I wanted to go Crowder, but we've already bought the dip on Crowder in a lot of spots. I haven't really drafted Paris Campbell anywhere. So let's throw in the towel. Let's draft Paris Campbell maybe for diversification purposes. I don't know, guys. Clearly, if we look back on this draft, we made a mistake with that James Robinson pick. Like, going through and looking at this entire draft board, I feel like we have crushed, and I repeat, crushed this draft. But probably the correct selection looking back, instead of taking James Robinson there at 146, what we should have done is we should have gone tight end. We should have taken Hunter Henry, or we should have taken Mike Gesicki. If we would have taken a tight end there, then all of a sudden we would have been put in a spot where instead of having to take Marvin Jones and Paris Campbell in the turn, we could have taken Keel Herbert and then maybe Marvin Jones. And now at tight end a little later on, we are going to be coming away with two guys like Logan Thomas and friggin' Taysom Hill. We are going to have an ugly situation at the tight end position. Okay, let's move this down. Damn, Jody says, I told you Gesicki, LOL. Thank you. Thank you for that, my friend. Thank you. A Sky Dude says, Paris Campbell is a dog, low-key. Yeah, Paris Campbell is a very good wide receiver. But at the same time, when has Paris Campbell stayed healthy? Realistically speaking, when has Campbell stayed healthy? Never. We've never seen it happen. Last time we saw it happen was at Ohio State. And real quick, guys, if you have not done so already, go down there, drop a like on this live stream if you want to see us fire up another draft. If we get 49 more likes on the stream, we are firing up another one after this. But Tyrion Davis-Price goes 179 to CSU Ram. He does not have another quarterback at this point. See where he decides to go after this. Kit Kat Kid says, just going to chill here, knowing I spammed Robinson because I'm a Jaguars. Guys, I think it's fine. I think it's very hard for us to look back and say, we knew that you were going to have all those tight ends go off the board. You were going to have David Njoku, Mike Gesicki, Hunter Henry, Gerald Everett, Tyler Higbee, and Noah Fant all drafted. Usually you can get Tyler Higbee and Noah Fant there at the turn. Of course, I'm joking when I say I blame it on y'all. Of course, it's on me. But what we maybe could do to use this as like a pseudo learning experience is seeing that team kind of went crazy and took Robert Tonyan a little bit earlier on. Maybe that should have been the tiebreaker that we used in favor of just going ahead and deciding to take the tight end in Gesicki or Hunter Henry, knowing that there was an extra tight end that was removed from the player pool. Maybe we should have used that as the tiebreak. But at this point, we are going to be adding on one more wide receiver and two more tight ends. So let's see who we end up getting. There are a couple names that I like at receiver and tight end. They're all about the same. Okay. So the Bears only has one QB. They go Tannehill. Jake says, moving to Missouri, Mason, saved up your videos for the 8-hour drive. I really hope you have a great drive, my man. Really hope you stay safe. Really hope you love Missouri. And you will probably get annoyed with this voice about 30 minutes into your drive. So I hope you downloaded some different podcasts, maybe downloaded an ebook so you can mix it up. But thank you, my man. I appreciate you. And Taysom Hill off the board here. So I think we are going to lock in a wide receiver at pick 191. And let's see what DZ decides to do. They only have one quarterback in Russell Wilson. They have 4 running backs with Kamara, Chubb, Dobbins, and Naheem Hines. What are they doing? What are they doing? Hell yes, guys. I'm actually excited about this. I'm actually excited about getting Alec Pierce and Paris Campbell on the same team. Getting Alec Pierce 14 picks behind his ADP here. And also at the same time, if we just think through this, like if, say, Michael Pittman were to go down, which of course I'm not rooting for, but if that were to happen, hell, I mean, this is probably a pretty exciting team overall. Now, we have to go through. We have to take 2 more tight ends. Our only tight end at this point is indeed going to be a Mr. Zach Ertz. So if we're looking at all these players, like, it's whatever. Let's just go ahead. Let's take a tight end. We'll take Mo Alley Cox, and there are a few names that I would like on the way back around. We'll see what guy we end up getting, but DZD decides to go Zach Wilson, 195, saying, F it, I'm not worried about the injury. Oh, that is bold, my friend. That is bold. DNB says Zach Ertz is so overrated. Yeah, I agree with you. I think Zach Ertz in the majority of these drafts is a player being overdrafted. He goes on average about pick 105, but we get him at pick 119 here. So based on the value that we're getting at ADP, I'm going to have to go ahead and I'm going to take him when we're drafting like in over 500 of these drafts this offseason. So we have to diversify. What I would have preferred is I would have preferred to get like a Garrett Wilson at 119 and pair him up with Gallup at 122. But after we take Mo Alley Cox, you're going to see some just random players go off the board. And real quick, guys, if you have not done so already, please go down there. Drop a like on the stream. We are 28 likes away from firing up another draft after this one. I think it'll be our 4th draft, maybe our 5th. Not exactly sure, but if y'all want to cut it here, that's completely fine. I mean, it's a Friday night. I understand. We've already had a lot of football today. But Davis Mills and Baker Mayfield off the board here. So let's see what CSU Ram decides to do. Like, who can he look to bring in at quarterback? I don't really know. Just put in a really difficult position. So Ty Montgomery at 202 with the announcement of the James White retirement. He goes Carson Wentz, 203. Okay, yeah, Carson Wentz. In my opinion, I don't see why Davis Mills has an ADP higher than Carson Wentz. Okay, so Zach Wilson is going under an MRI tomorrow, apparently, to see what's up with the knee. Okay. Interesting. He goes Mariota, 206. Okay, so he is able to solve the QB position. But yeah, serious guys, why is Carson Wentz being drafted before Davis Mills? Serious question. I think about all the fantasy football viable players in Washington being drafted with Terry McLaurin, with Jahan Dotson, with Curtis Samuel, with J.D. McKissick, with Antonio Gibson, with Logan Thomas, who we may take here in the 18th round. And compare that to what you have in Houston. If you think Davis Mills should be drafted before Carson Wentz, you should be a lot more excited about those pass catchers for the Houston Texans. And real quick, guys, we are 7 likes away from getting another draft going. So if you want to see another draft, make sure you go down there, drop a like on the live stream, and let's pull this back around. Let's see what tight end we are going to be getting. Spam the chat right now. The tight end I usually go with in the last round is actually Logan Thomas because he's not being drafted in the majority of these, so it's a unique pick. At the same time, I do think he has upside, specifically near the end of the year. So spam the chat. Who would you like to see? Logan Thomas or Cameron Brate? Honestly, outside of this, if I were to go with someone, usually I reach on Trey McBride in the 18th round as a unique pick. I don't love the rookie in Denver because a lot of people have already been drafting him in the 18th, so it's kind of whatever. Okay. A lot of people saying Logan Thomas. And then we have a vote for Trey McBride. The reason I'm more hesitant to take Trey McBride as I would usually do in a draft like this is because we already took Zach Ertz. So if we're betting on Zach Ertz here, it would be hard for us to make that bet on Trey McBride and for it to also work out. So it looks like we are going to get Logan Thomas. Actually, yeah, we are going to get Thomas. Let me go through and set up our next draft. This is going to be a private draft. It'd be like a $3 draft, a practice draft for everybody in here. Just a draft to have some fun, of course. What you will see is a message sent out in the live chat. It will say $3 draft here. All you do is go and click on that link, and then you are in the draft. But if you have not signed up for an Underdog Fantasy account, I'm sorry, you're going to be too slow. You're not going to be able to get in. You should have signed up a while ago whenever I told you to a million times over. Okay. $3 draft. Sent that link out there. It is in the live chat right now for anybody wanting to come and draft with us. This is going to fill up damn near immediately. At least I'm assuming it will. I'm assuming it will. Okay, so yeah, this is filled. Let's see where we're going to be drafting. Okay, P Bros made it in the draft with us. Happy to see him. We got N4C4 out here. Trying to... Mace Man was out here earlier in the live stream tonight. Swizz World, we are drafting right next to him, a longtime member of the flock. Please, in the YouTube chat right now, so I can try to remember your Underdog name, try to remember your YouTube name. If you are in this draft with us, please spam in the YouTube live chat where you are drafting, what pick you are currently at. And also, if you want to get in our next draft, if you want to draft with us every single night on the live stream or have some fun, draft in the public lobby or draft with your friends, whatever you want to do, make sure you go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code FLOCK when you sign up for Underdog Fantasy, and they'll match your first deposit $1 for $1 up to $100. And when you make that first deposit, regardless of if it's as low as a $10 deposit on Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK, you will get our 2022 fantasy football rankings, our 2022 fantasy football draft guide with just a $10 deposit on Underdog. So please make sure you go ahead and you take advantage of that. But here we have Jonathan Taylor, CMC, Justin Jefferson going off the board through the first 3 rounds. So I think that this is about going to be the most standard draft ever. Jamar Chase 5. So we have LOLG at 7. Okay, LOLG is okay. Happy to see you out here. And Naffle Lip is at the 103, so that's going to be T. Peter. Kit Kat Kid is pick 11. That's Starog. No, I'm Fantasy Flock. Never mind. Adam says he made it into another draft. He is pick 8. Okay, so that's SW Adam. We'll just say it SW Adam. Parash out here at 4th. P mode. Okay, thank you all for coming out here. I appreciate you. Kobe Schwartz says, where do you find the draft guide? Of course, Kobe Schwartz, I appreciate your support, my man. And if y'all don't know, Kobe Schwartz is another YouTuber. But for our draft guide, all you got to do is go to your email. When you sign up for Underdog Fantasy and you use promo code FLOCK, you are going to get that deposit match the second you sign up. So it may look confusing. Like if you deposit $10, use promo code FLOCK, you are going to get that deposit match that second, but it's going to take about 1 to 2 hours for the actual email to hit your inbox where you do get that draft guide and you get our 2022 fantasy football rankings. So it's going to be the email address you signed up for Underdog Fantasy with. Wait about 1 to 2 hours. It will come from Underdog Fantasy and it may go to your spam. So if you don't see it in about 1 to 2 hours, please check your spam. And if you still can't find it, please just make sure you send me an email personally and I'll be happy to get that sorted out for you. Okay. But DeAndre Swift, Saquon Barkley going off the board here, picks 16, 17. We start Najee Harris, Travis Kelce. So we have a scary start where obviously you need to be pushing these wide receivers up on Underdog, but at the same time, I think we do have a start with a lot of upside. And we have a lot of other teams here through the first 2 rounds deciding to double tap that running back position with a combination of Eckler, Aaron Jones, Derrick Henry, DeAndre Swift, Dalvin Cook, Saquon Barkley. You can have a Javonte Williams sliding up draft boards here, going at pick 21. And remember, we were able to get Javonte Williams at pick 26 in that last draft. P-Bros, like that second takes Nick Chubb at 23. So it looks like you have a lot of running backs flying off here. Some wide receiver value making it. Like you have Mike Evans falling all the way to 24. Interesting, interesting. So it looks like maybe we chose the right draft to not go ahead and reach on a wide receiver in either rounds 1 or 2. All right, Leonard Fournette, 25. What receivers are still available? I guess Higgins is really the only guy that usually is off the board by now. T. Higgins off the board, 28, behind the combination of Michael Pittman and A.J. Brown. I know we've had a lot of people saying, okay, well, you need to go ahead. You need to take Michael Pittman over T. Higgins because, obviously, you do have someone named, I don't know if you've heard of him, but you do have someone named Jamar Chase in Cincinnati. I personally think, well, T. Higgins is playing in a passing offense that's going to have so much more volume, that's going to be significantly more efficient. T. Higgins is a better player overall. Give me T. Higgins. Nick says, hey, Mason, doing a high-stakes auction draft this year. 1 quarterback, 1 running back, 1 wide receiver, 4 flex, 1 tight end, and half PPR. Any advice? Love tuning into the live streams every night, by the way. Thank you so much, my friend. What I would say is punt running back here. Punt running back, I'm hammering in wide receivers. I think we should be planning on starting 5 wide receivers every single week. Of course, adjust to how your league mates are determining those auction values. If you think running backs are undervalued, I would go ahead, maybe pivot to the running back position. But in a vacuum, it may make a little more sense to just hammer in some of those wide receivers immediately. Because think about it, you can start every single week, 5 receivers, 1 running back. And I have a feeling that if you're nominating players, start throwing out guys like Ezekiel Elliott, Travis Etienne, James Conner. See, people are going to be overpaying for these running back 2s for the security of the position when, honestly, it just simply doesn't matter at all. So now we go Jalen Waddle 35. We'll just take whoever falls to us after this. I did want to make sure that we are getting one of these wide receivers that we like. Swizzworld decides to go ahead and actually draft Breece Hall here. It's going to be a very interesting selection to take Breece Hall before someone like James Conner, Travis Etienne. And he takes Ezekiel Elliott. So I think at this point we do go James Conner round 4. I just wanted to make sure we are locking in our wide receiver. That's why we did decide to go with the Jalen Waddle. And we have LOLG coming out, says, this is my first draft ever taking the combination of Austin Eckler and Aaron Jones. Yeah, so getting Eckler obviously behind ADP, getting Aaron Jones at ADP, that's personally where I prefer drafting Aaron Jones there in the middle of the 2nd round. I do like that price point given the departure of Devontae Adams in Green Bay. So yeah, I think it's a strong start, my friend. I mean, you get Keenan Allen in the 3rd. I really like that value of Keenan Allen in the 3rd. But one thing I do want to point out is B. Huff starts Andrews and Kyle Pitts. Now, of course, I am saying this selfishly. But this can potentially lead to a cascading effect of these tight ends getting pushed up across draft boards across the board. Now, keep in mind, there may be a reason I'm saying this. Look at who we have drafted. We drafted Travis Kelce, so maybe I'm biased with this thought process. But I would assume that when one team goes out there and monopolizes the position, that it probably has an effect later on. But I mean, you still have Darren Waller, you still have Kittle available. So maybe I'm wrong in assuming that. Okay, so Cam Akers off the board, pick 45. Cam Akers, I think in a draft that we did earlier today, ended up falling to the very end of the 5th. I mean, definitely when you had the reports coming out initially from Sean McVay saying that Akers was going to be a running back splitting with Darrell Henderson, like Akers was falling drastically right away. I mean, there were like 5 drafts in a row where I was the sucker drafting Cam Akers, and we were getting him in the mid to late 5th round. Anthony says, so are we strong on James Conner this year with Chase Edmonds in Miami? I am much more excited about James Conner this year with Chase Edmonds in Miami. Because if you look at the split, in games that Chase Edmonds did not play last year, you did have James Conner with a completely different role as a receiver overall. So yes, I like the idea of going through and betting in on James Conner. Okay, so Juju Smith-Schuster goes 52. Let's move this back around. I don't exactly know what to expect here. Like, we definitely still need wide receivers. Keep in mind, we have to start 3 of these guys. Mahomes goes 53. I think there's a chance that quarterbacks are pushed up draft boards as well because this team in 4C4 decided to take 2 elite level quarterbacks with a combination of Allen and Justin Herbert in rounds 3 and 4. So very similar to tight ends. Maybe both 1Z positions are going to get pushed up draft boards here. We have J.K. Dobbins pick 55, Brandon Cooks pick 54. Honestly, I would have loved J.K. Dobbins making it to us. LOG does snipe us on that pick, but we're not dying to bring in another running back when we already have the combo of Najee Harris and James Conner. I think we have our plan. Yeah, we have a plan that I want to stick to. Michael Thomas goes off the board, pick 56 here. Mace Man 22 on the clock. They go DK Metcalf. Okay, yeah. We're going to be able to execute our plan. At least the first part of it. Yeah, Darnell Mooney off the board. We've already talked at length why I'm not a massive fan of Rashad Bateman. We are going to grab the elite level quarterback in Kyler Murray here, big 59. We're going to be able to pair up Kyler with James Conner. Honestly, it's not the biggest deal in the world. I'm looking at Kyler Murray as a quarterback that can get there with his rushing upside as well. I like Kyler Murray, regardless if we're going to have correlation with him or not. Okay. E-Money says, what do you think of my draft so far at the 1 pick? Okay, we'll go through and we'll check that out. We do get sniped. Jalen Hurts goes directly after us. I was thinking about taking Jalen Hurts here at the beginning of the 6th round whenever we were also looking at that team that decided to pair up Allen and Herbert. I know we were talking about Bateman being overvalued. Bateman is overvalued, but we're getting him, what, 8 picks behind his ADP here? I mean, ADP of 54. Yeah, we're getting him 8 picks behind his ADP. So let's go ahead. Let's take him. We need another wide receiver. It's a boring pick. It is what it is. He was a great prospect coming out. Very bad rookie season. Low volume passing attack, but I'll take him in the 6th round. So now going over to team 1. This was the team that goes Jonathan Taylor, Evans, Leonard Fournette, Deontay Johnson, Lamar Jackson. I think it's personally a very strong start. I mean, if you're looking at Lamar Jackson as a quarterback that has upside to be the quarterback 1 overall in fantasy, hell, that's nice to have whenever a team decides to pair up Josh Allen and Justin Herbert together. And on top of it, you are getting that correlation in with that Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense at a value that you're not having to reach on. So I really like your draft. Juan says, why is correlation so important? Mason, serious question. Okay, we've talked about this time and time again. I will bring it up because it is very important. We made a video. You can find a 20-minute video. Just go and look for the thumbnail that has Trey Lance and Deebo Samuel. But essentially, say you draft Stephon Diggs round 1, right? Like this team does that decides to take Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen. You draft Stephon Diggs round 1. What has to happen for this team to be good? The Buffalo Bills offense probably either has to live up to expectations or exceed expectations. If you were going to be the one team out of the 12-team league that actually wins this season, the Buffalo Bills probably have to either exceed or at least meet their expectations. And if that's going to happen, it makes it significantly more likely that Josh Allen also hits. So if you go through and you start to correlate your bets together, then all of a sudden, you're going to be in a position where you don't have to get as many individual bets correct. It's like you're making a parlay, but instead of having to put 5 or 6 legs together, you only have to put 2 or 3 legs together, and you have the same odds. You have the same reward. So I would go through, and I would look to correlate where we can. If you're going to be reaching rounds to do it, hell, the upside of the correlation is probably gone. But definitely use it as a tiebreaker and definitely go out of your way and try to get it. Okay. Flippy says, is this a super flex league or is that guy trying to trade? This is a best ball format. So on Underdog, you don't have to submit your starting lineup every single week. So say Josh Allen's the quarterback 1 week 1, then Josh Allen automatically slides into a starting lineup. And then if Justin Herbert is the quarterback 1 in fantasy the next week, then Justin Herbert automatically starts in his lineup. Now I will say, I don't think it's a great strategy to go quarterback in the 3rd, quarterback in the 4th. Let me be on record in saying that. But that's the explanation on why you would draft 2 elite level quarterbacks where you maybe wouldn't do it in a traditional fantasy football league. Okay. And that's going to be the main difference, in my opinion, from best ball to redraft, is just changing your roster construction where you are able to do just small little adjustments like that. Randy says, Jalen Waddle over Tyreek Hill. I would not be surprised if Waddle outscores Tyreek Hill this upcoming season, but it's something that is very difficult to project. Like, you can't come out here and assume that that's going to happen. Now, DeAndre Hopkins off the board, 77. I would have taken DeAndre Hopkins if he would have made it to us at the 7-8 turn when we had Kyler Murray, even though this is cumulative scoring. We're not looking for the fantasy football playoffs with this league in particular. Guess let's move this back around. Tom Brady goes off the board there, pick 80. So it looks like we are not going to be bringing in a second quarterback almost regardless of who we're going to be staring at. There's one player in particular that I kind of want. We'll see what happens. Y'all know I'm not a massive Lazard guy. So Gibson is, in my opinion, the clear pick here. Bringing in our third running back, someone that, in my opinion, should have a nice workload this upcoming season and a significant amount of upside if he can finally put it together at the running back position, transitioning over from wide receiver 2 years ago. K-Jack says, do you know what the video is called? I think it's like something cheesy, like the #1 strategy in fantasy football. I'm pulling up the channel so I can go through and I can try to find it for you. It has Lance and Debo on the thumbnail. It was probably made about a month ago. The most important draft strategy in targets, 2022 fantasy football. 4 weeks ago on the channel. Let's say Christian Kirk. I know that Allen Lazard is probably everybody's favorite pick here. Obviously, Allen Lazard is falling around in ADP. And if Allen Lazard is indeed the wide receiver 1 in that Green Bay Packers offense this upcoming season, Allen Lazard is the correct pick here. But I am not guaranteed that that is going to be the case. I think there's an outside chance, not likely, but there's an outside chance that Christian Watson's the wide receiver 1. Romeo Doubs is the wide receiver 1. That that Sammy Watkins is the wide. I think that Allen Lazard does not have too many special traits, that this is, at the end of the day, an undrafted free agent that has never been able to command a significant target share in the NFL. Of course, he has the excuse of Devontae Adams. And I would say from a median projection, he probably is the guy that you want to assume is going to be the wide receiver 1 here. It's just hard to guarantee that that's going to be the case, where we do know for a damn fact that Christian Kirk is going to be that guy. Now, after we take Christian Kirk, Allen Lazard is still available. So do not expect this to happen in your regular fantasy football league. For Allen Lazard to fall to pick 91, this is given the fact that we're drafting with a bunch of people from this live stream, and we come out here and we talk crap on Lazard every single day. So do not expect that to happen in your fantasy football draft. Allen Lazard will be going before guys like Chris Olave, Treylon Burks, Christian Kirk, Hunter Renfrow, Kadarius Toney. I mean, hell, Allen Lazard has an ADP before Devonta Smith. I think that's where it gets real crazy. If someone wanted to come out here and argue with me, oh no, Mason, you have to value Allen Lazard and the passing efficiency you'll have in Green Bay over what you have with Christian Kirk in Jacksonville. If you wanted to argue that with me, hell, I'm not going to sit here and argue with you. I'll just give it to you. I'll give it to you, my friend. But if you were going to make that case against Devonta Smith, oh, that's where I can't listen. Now, Rashad Penny goes pick 94, Tyler Lockett 95. Ramondre Stevenson. So at this point, I think we still need to have wide receiver value making it to us. Now, I would say we probably look to take Zach Ertz if he does fall at the pick 107, even though I don't love Zach Ertz. But if you're looking at it from this format in particular, where we do need to prioritize production at the beginning of the season, just as important as production at the end of the year, and on top of this, you're looking at it through the context that we took Kyler Murray, a team earlier in this draft. If you were just now coming in here, if you're just now joining us, you'll see a team earlier in this draft decided to pair up the combination of Mark Andrews as well as Kyle Pitts. So I do think that you end up getting these tight ends probably sliding up draft boards overall. We combine all those factors together, even though I don't love the Zach Ertz ADP. I think with this draft, with this team, with this build, if a Zach Ertz selection is ever going to make sense, we probably take him here. Even though it's funny because I felt like we've drafted Zach Ertz in a decent amount of leagues so far this offseason. Now, Devin Singletary going directly after us here. Let's move this down. I mean, I know most people would feel fine with Bateman as their wide receiver 2. I just get scared with Rashad Bateman as our wide receiver 2, if I'm going to be honest. Kenneth Walker goes pick 100. Dawson Knox 102. Yeah, so that's going to confirm the fact that I think we do need to go ahead. We need to take Zach Ertz if he does fall to us. Let's move this over. Stafford 103. Okay, so that's another team taking 2 elite level quarterbacks. I mean, we have Kyler. That's why we reached on Kyler Murray at pick 59. James Cook goes 104. So is the reason MVS is falling this far? Because I've noticed in pretty much every single draft that we've had today, Marquez Valdes-Scantling is falling significantly behind his ADP. Is it due to the Sky Moore hype? Please let me know if that's the case. Chase Claypool goes 105. Or is there something that I'm missing with Marquez Valdes-Scantling here? Luke says, Mason, how many underdog drafts have you done this offseason? My guess is 300. I've definitely done over 500 at this point. Okay, so I think we have to take MVS if he's falling to us. What, 11 picks past his ADP? 12 picks past his ADP at this point. Yeah, let's take Marquez Valdes-Scantling. He's playing with Mahomes. You are going to get random spike weeks in the best ball format, which I think we do need a value. Zach Ertz goes directly after, which 100% sucks. But I think we're probably just going to go ahead and take... I don't want to say it out loud. There are 2 players I'm looking at with this pick. Let's see what Swiss World does. He takes Garrett Wilson. So we're going to get our guy. We're going to get Tyler Boyd here. I think Tyler Boyd does contribute to our starting lineup very often. And at the same time, if you're looking at Tyler Boyd, as we've already discussed, he has the contingency value that if you were to see an injury to either Jamar Chase or an injury to T. Higgins, all of a sudden Tyler Boyd does have a lot of upside in this offense. LOLG asking for an opinion on his team. Yes, sir. You know, I'd be happy to check this roster out for you. So if you're looking at this draft, LOLG is going to be at pick 7. So they decided to go ahead and take Austin Eckler in the first. And then after Eckler in the first, they move on. Aaron Jones, Keenan Allen, Hollywood Brown. Hollywood is a pretty good value here. What I would say is Hollywood's the perfect example of someone that's probably a little bit more valuable in this format where we don't have the fantasy football playoffs, because the majority of his production should be front-loaded at the beginning portion of the season when you don't have DeAndre Hopkins. So maybe this is similar if you're playing in like a casual fantasy football league where you're going to feel confident that you can go through and you can sell a player high. I mean, if your league mates are very active, if there are a lot of trades that are going to be made, and you think that you can go ahead, take Hollywood probably a little early, and then end up just moving off of him before DeAndre Hopkins comes back. Same thing here. I think very similar formats. And then if we're going to be looking at the 5th round pick at Dobbins, you know, I was pissed at you for taking J.K. Dobbins from us at the end of the 5th round. And then beyond that, Dalton Schultz in the 6th, Dak Prescott in the 7th. I'm not a massive fan of Dalton Schultz. I would say, obviously, it makes sense to go ahead to get the correlation in here where you can. At the end of the day, I'm probably going to go ahead. I'm probably going to avoid him at this price tag, even though, as I said, I understand why someone would do the exact opposite. I mean, he's in a fantastic situation, especially if you're able to just go through and if you're able to get Dak Prescott in the following round when we're afraid that quarterbacks are going to get pushed up in this draft based on the Allen and Justin Herbert team. And then beyond that, Chris Olave, Matthew Stafford. The Matthew Stafford pick at 103, I actually really like in this draft in particular, just because you are projecting that these other quarterbacks are going to go a little too early. Like you see Aaron Rodgers go at 111, Kirk Cousins go at 117. So even though you don't have anybody for the Los Angeles Rams, probably makes a lot of sense. But let's move this down. Jalen Tolbert, 120. Cole Kmet, 119. Yeah, Justin Fields is even going here. Henderson off the board. So at this point, looks like on the way back around, I know a lot of people probably go to Tagovailoa. I honestly may not even do that. I may just grab 2 wide receiver values and end up taking 3 quarterbacks total in this draft, especially if we're not worried about having to just roster a ridiculous amount of wide receivers as we would be in a tournament style draft on Underdog. It's going to be a little bit of a different optimal roster construction, in my opinion, because we're just raising our median projection. We don't need to be raising the top 1 percentile outcome here. So Albert O, 124. So these tight ends are continuing to slide up. McCole Hardman goes 125. Hardman would have been a wide receiver we decided to take to pair up with Marquez Valdez-Scantling to capture as many spike weeks as possible in that Kansas City Chiefs offense if we would have had the opportunity to do so. But I feel like at this point, let me check. I feel like we're drafting Golladay in every single one of these leagues. Let me see how many leagues I've drafted Golladay in. Because it feels like every time I'm in round 11 and I'm just throwing my hands in the air going, okay, I have no idea what to do. Seems like Galladay's just coming to us. Yeah, I have Golladay in 14% of these drafts at this point. I probably need to cool it with this Golladay exposure. But like, yeah, if we were sitting here on the clock, I probably would have taken Golladay. Even as gross as that sounds, we're going to go Devontae Parker here, 131. Damn Jody says McCole Hardman will be the wide receiver 1 in Pittsburgh. Dear God, my man. Dylan says, Mason, I just posited $50 with promo code FLOCK. Thank you so much, my friend, for signing up for Underdog using promo code FLOCK. I cannot tell you how much that supports this channel. I appreciate you, and I'm going to continue to live stream every single night. Every single night, so you can hopefully hop into some of these drafts with us. But I think now Swiss World goes Kenneth Gainwell, James Robinson. We probably take Isaiah Spiller. I don't love the ADP of Isaiah Spiller because we're looking at a running back that usually goes at the very top end of the 11th round instead of here at the 12th. But you understand why Isaiah Spiller would go in this range. I mean, this is a running back that should be having a week-to-week role in one of the most productive offenses in the NFL with Justin Herbert in Los Angeles. And at the same time, with Isaiah Spiller here, this is a player that we can project saying, hell, if Austin Eckler were to go down, he probably just slides into being a poor man's Austin Eckler in that Los Angeles Chargers offense. So he's very similar like our Tyler Boyd pick. Maybe make the argument that this is a player that has that role on a week-to-week basis that is almost worth the pick in its own right. And then if anything else happens to change the situation, probably be really disappointing. Cameron says, Isaiah Spiller over Nyheim Hines. Yeah, this is the perfect example. I mean, if you go through, say, if you were looking at Isaiah Spiller versus Nyheim Hines from a median projection standpoint, if Jonathan Taylor stays healthy, if Austin Eckler stays healthy, then maybe you prefer Nyheim Hines over Isaiah Spiller. I mean, it would be marginal. They'd be about in the same range. You'd probably say Nyheim Hines outscores Isaiah Spiller. But if Jonathan Taylor goes down, does the role for Nyheim Hines in his offense change? Or is there a different running back that gets promoted to see work on first and second downs, and Nyheim Hines keeps his job as just the primary passing down running back? In my opinion, that's probably what would happen. I think you would probably have Nyheim Hines just as the primary passing down running back, and nothing would change. But if you were to have an injury to Austin Eckler, I do think it would be in the range of outcomes. I do think it would be in the cards for all of a sudden a change with Isaiah Spiller into a feature down role in Los Angeles. So I think from a median projection standpoint, maybe you make the argument that you would prefer Nyheim Hines, but from an upside case, I think you prefer Isaiah Spiller. Okay, damn Jody telling us that Patrick Mahomes is coming out and praising McCole Hardman to be the Tyreek Hill role, yada. My man, of course Patrick Mahomes is going to go first guy. McCole Hardman's been there since 2019. Everybody else stepping into the building's brand new. Of course he's going to go in an interview and talk up McCole Hardman. Is he supposed to say, here, let's do a reenactment. Let's use the water bottle as a microphone. Or we have a microphone here. Mr. Patrick Mahomes, you don't have Tyreek Hill in this offense. How is this team going to function this upcoming season? Who's going to be your wide receiver 1? Is he supposed to then take that microphone and go, yeah, we're just looking at the new guys. F the only player that stayed with this team. F McCole Hardman. We're going to have Sky Moore coming in. He's the upside rookie. He's the guy that we all really want to get excited about in the building. And then beyond that, We are also going to be looking at Juju Smith-Schuster to man the slot, Sky Moore to be the Alpha X wide receiver. McCole Hardman's probably just going to be a backup this upcoming season. Nothing special. Like, is he supposed to say that? Or is he supposed to go, oh, no, the guy I've been with 2019, the guy that's been with this team, yeah, he's going to be great. He's going to be the new Tyreek Hill. He's going to replace Tyreek. Of course, he's going to be going through and talking up McCole Hardman. So now we have a couple quarterbacks going right before us. That sucks because obviously we still need quarterbacks for this team. I'd say we probably just hammer in a wide receiver here in Nico Collins. I think Nico Collins fits this a format that we're looking for in particular. Someone that should be able to just come in and get raw volume. Now, Swizzworld probably needs to go ahead and take back-to-back wide receivers. They only have 3 receivers total, so I'd imagine they go 2 receivers here. And the question is, what do we decide to do? Do we decide to grab our 5th running back, our 2nd tight ends? I don't know. Yeah, let's just grab our 5th running back. Let's take Herbert here. Let's take someone that does have upside. If there were to be a David Montgomery injury, I think Herbert could slide in to be a 3-down running back. And real quick, guys, if y'all have not done so already, could you please go down there, drop a like on the live stream for us. Nobody is live streaming like us every single night, 3-4 hours of real money fantasy football drafts. So please make sure you go down there, drop a like on the stream, subscribe to the channel. We actually may end up getting to 90,000 subs before the season starts, and we may end up having that 24-hour live stream draft, which would be obnoxious. It would be ridiculous. Now let's scroll this down. Ted says, I had to share this Basketball Mania draft. No, did a Basketball Mania draft. No, Best Ball Mania. My wide receivers are Jefferson, Higgins, Hollywood, Brandon Cooks, Devonta Smith, Traylon Burks, Jacoby Myers, Zay Jones. It sounds like a good wide receiver core, but what's the rest of the team? I don't want to say, oh, this is the best wide receiver core I've ever seen. I mean, I'm assuming you went Jefferson round 1, Higgins round 3, Hollywood round 4, Brandon Cooks round 5, Devonta Smith round 7. Burks round 8. I mean, it's a good wide receiver core, but we need to see the rest of the team if it's going to be a truly special roster. P-Bro says, Mason, take a peek at pick 2. What do you think? Okay, let's go through. Let's check out pick 2 for P-Bros here. And P-Bros decides to go CMC, Nick Chubb out the gate, Michael Pittman in the 3rd. My friends, I saw this when you made it. I can't get there. I can't understand the Michael Pittman over T. Higgins call. Something that personally I'm not going to be doing. Like, I understand maybe he doesn't have as much target competition, but he's playing in an offense that's going to run the ball over and over and over again. I don't think he's as talented as T. Higgins. Obviously, nobody's going to make the argument that Matt Ryan at this point of his NFL career is better than Burrow. I'm never taking Pittman here. But beyond that, Kittle in the 4th. I definitely understand this pick if you're looking at the context of the Andrews and Kyle Pitts team doubling up. Then going Gabriel Davis in the 5th. I'm not a big Gabriel Davis guy, but you are getting him significantly behind his ADP. I would say probably when you see the Allen and Herbert team double up, I would go Mahomes, but I'm not going to argue with anybody getting a player 8 picks behind ADP. And then Ayuk 71, Jacob 74, really like that value. Lockett, Robert Woods here at the turn. Completely fine with that when you already have those 3 running backs. Cole Kmet, Justin Fields get that stack. I think it's a little early for Cole Kmet, but going back to what we were talking about with that other team monopolizing the tight end positions right away. Then at wide receiver, Robbie Anderson, KJ Hamler, Brian Robinson, Ryan Tannehill. Interesting. I like the team. I just can't get there with Michael Pittman. Like, taking Michael Pittman over T. Higgins is like the craziest thing I've ever seen. Ted says, my first 2 running backs are Saquon Barkley. How did you get Barkley on this team? So Barkley fell to the end of the 2nd round? And you got Kyler and Hurts? How did you get Kyler? I'm trying to think through this. So I'm assuming you got Brandon Cooks at the... I don't know how that worked. Yeah, and you got the stack there with Hollywood Brown and Kyler, and then Devonta Smith and Jalen Hurts. Oh, that is beautiful, my friend. That is beautiful. That is beautiful. But Noah Fant goes 174. Let's scroll this back around, see what we're going to be looking at. Hayden Hurst off the board. We only need one more tight end. We took Travis Kelce. I'd be fine waiting until the 18th round and deciding to take Logan Thomas there. So we need one more running back, probably 2 more QBs at this point, and 1 more tight end. I think we're maybe done at wide receiver unless we get a value that we really like. So Alec Pierce goes 176, Evan Ingram 177. Neither of those players would have been guys that we take. Here in a private draft where we only have to beat these 11 other owners, we don't have to worry about the fantasy football playoffs either. We're not going to be considering Deshaun Watson. I think that we just scroll down. Of course, we're going way past ADP. We just go ahead. We take Jared Goff. We need raw quarterback points. Goff is in a great situation. He has an elite offensive line. He has Hawkinson. He has Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams. DJ Chark, DeAndre Swift. He has a ton of weapons in Detroit this upcoming season. So I will be fine taking Jared Goff here. And then I do want to come away with 3 quarterbacks with this build. So let's go ahead. Let's take Baker Mayfield, because who are we really passing up on? At running back, are we dying to take Marlon Mack or Raheem Mostert? Not necessarily. So let's make sure we get our 3rd quarterback. It's a boring pick, but I think from a raw expected value standpoint, getting a 3rd quarterback here is just going to give us significantly more points than what another position would. And like I was saying, if this would be one of those tournament drafts, like if you're drafting on Best Ball Mania here, you probably don't take a 3rd quarterback after you take Kyler Murray. But since this is just that 12-team private draft, Baker Mayfield is going to give us more points than Isaiah Pacheco. He's going to give us more points than Jamison Crowder. I'm pretty confident when I say that. P. Bros has stolen, wanted Baker for the CMC and Robbie Anderson stack. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have taken Baker here if it wasn't for the Zach Wilson injury. But if you just think about it, the Zach Wilson injury makes it where there's one less quarterback now available to people to go ahead and draft here at the very end. So I think it's more likely that if we were to pass on Baker Mayfield, that we're sitting in a situation where we are no longer able to get a quarterback in the 17th. I could be wrong, but at the end of the day, what value are we really missing out on having to pass on Marlon Mack, having to pass on Raheem Mostert here? Okay. So real quick, guys, if you have not done so already, go down there, drop a like on the live stream if you all want to see another draft. Subscribe to the channel. And if you want to get in our next draft, make sure you go to the link in the live chat. Go to the link in the description of the video. Go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code FLOCK when you sign up for Underdog Fantasy. They'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. You'll get our 2022 fantasy football rankings. You'll get our 2022 fantasy football draft guide with literally just a $10 deposit on Underdog. And of course, you can have some fun. You can draft in these leagues with us. You can come out here and you can beat us down. So we have Gus Edwards, J.D. McKissick, Marlon Mack all going off the board here at the end of the 16th. So not great for us when we need to add in another running back. So as it stands, looks like we probably made the mistake not just going ahead and taking Marlon Mack at pick 182 and hoping that we got a quarterback on the way back around. So definitely looks like we made that mistake with these running backs going off the board. We'll see if we have other quarterbacks going off the board here in the 17th round before we are back up on the clock. Yeah, Deshaun Watson goes 192. As I discussed, in that tournament contest where we need to be optimizing for weeks 15, 16, 17, Watson's the perfect guy. Private draft, I don't really care. I mean, even if Watson's only suspended 6 weeks, like Watson still seems like a pretty tough pick here, just given the fact that, well, you're missing 6 weeks. Okay, so let's move this down. Like if AJ Green were to fall, we probably punt the 6th running back and we probably just go ahead, take AJ Green, get the correlation in there with Kyler Murray. Carson Wentz off the board. This is what I was talking about. Like once Zach Wilson's no longer viable for you, just the quarterback position is less appealing here at the very end of the drafts. Because even if you weren't the guy to take Zach Wilson, hell, maybe someone else would take Zach Wilson and you would get Jared Goff falling to you. You would get Baker Mayfield falling to you. But AJ coming out with the donation. Thank you, my friend. Says, a Dynasty Happy PR. Trade away CeeDee Lamb and Travis Etienne. Receive AJ Brown and Christian McCaffrey. Rosters Kyler Murray, Alvin Kamara, Allen Robinson, Darnell Mooney, George Kittle, A.J. Dillon, Alan Lazard, Devin Duvernay, Jamison Crowder, and Jarvis Landry. Okay. This is a very difficult spot because I'm confident in saying from a dynasty perspective that you'll probably have more value on the CeeDee Lamb side next offseason. But as it stands now, I like where the value lies with the combination of A.J. Brown and Christian McCaffrey. But I'm worried that this team does not have enough depth to be a true contender. So if we could somehow address our depth to become a true contender in this league, then I think that trade would make a lot of sense here. But as it stands, probably going to be difficult. And like if you have extra first round picks next year, extra second round picks, and we can make more plays to add in additional assets, or maybe we can break down Christian McCaffrey for another starter, then yes, make the deal. But we have a New York Giants wide receiver that I've never heard of from LOLG, CJ Board. Please, LOLG, let me know your thought process on this wide receiver here. Let me know what you're thinking. We're going to go ahead. We're going to take a running back with this pick, and then we are just going to get a tight end on the way back around in the 18th. Taysom Hill goes 201. I wouldn't be dying to take Taysom Hill in like a private draft like this. I probably wouldn't have taken Taysom Hill. I probably would have taken one of these regular tight ends. Mo Alley Cox off the board. Okay, we're going to go Donta Foreman, hook 'em horns. That's all I got to say. And LOLG says, that's my friend's new player on the Giants just for fun, LOL. Okay, so just the guy you want to root for. I mean, that's why I'm taking Donta Foreman here. Mainly a guy I want to root for on this build, so I completely get it. And we are going to take Logan Thomas in the 18th round. And it looks like we did not hit 1,000 likes in the stream, so we'll probably cut the live stream here. But don't you worry, we will be drafting again tomorrow night. And I'll be drafting again the night after that, and 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 the night after that, the night after that, all the way down the line. I'm not going to miss a single night of live stream drafts. I mean, I have a wedding tomorrow, and we are going to bail on the wedding early so I can come out and I can get a live stream draft with you going. But thank you, guys. I appreciate all of you so damn much. Of course, if you want to get into our next draft, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell next to the subscribe button. And go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. You can find the link in the live chat. Find it in the description of the video. Sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code FLOCK. They'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. You'll get our 2022 rankings, our 2022 Fantasy Football Draft Guide with a $10 deposit. And you'll be able to have some fun, draft in the public lobby, draft with your friends, draft with us on a live stream, and support this channel. But thank you, guys. Again, I really appreciate you. I hope you have really fun plans for this weekend. If you don't, hell, I'm assuming you're going to be watching the preseason games like me. But thank you, guys, and I'll see you tomorrow.